Tonight's broadcast in crystal clear high definition, brought to you by Bright House. Take a look, John, at the Suncoast Hyundai dealers' keys to this game.
Well, number one, we're going to call it the Schiano way. Last week, we talked about it in the open. They went a long way in establishing who they're going to be under Greg Schiano. That's a tough, disciplined football team. It showed well last week. Number two, this week you want to see your guy at quarterback, Josh Freeman, air it out a little. You went out, spent money on a Vincent Jackson, on a Dallas Clark. Let's see those guys go to work. They aren't going to be out there long, but I expect them to air it out when they are. And finally, bring the heat. Formula in this league to win these days, you got to be able to knock down the opposing quarterback. We've got to see it, whether it's from the front four or pressures, creative in their pressures. We got to see some pressure on that quarterback.
No sacks last week in the opener in the win against the Miami Dolphins, but creative ways to bring that heat, according to the head coach. Let's get down to the sidelines. Dave Worth with the Bucs injury report, brought to you by the hospitals of HCA West Florida, providing great care fast when you need it most. Dave?
All right, Chris, the injury list is lighter than it was last week. Tight end Luke Stocker will not play tonight. He's got a leg injury, along with a couple of defensive tackles. Amobi Okoye and Gary Gibson will also miss tonight's game with injuries. As you know, Donald Penn is out, but the good news on Donald Penn is he was taken off the injured list. He is eligible to return to practice. We assume that's going to be this week. Chris?
Thanks very much. And just a 10% chance of rain this evening. 85 degrees the temperature here. Mike Munchak, a rare Hall of Fame player, and as a head coach, his Titans won 9 games last year.
And they were impressive. He did a nice job with the Titans. They're a team that a lot of people think can make some noise this year.
And of course, Greg Schiano, after all the success at Rutgers, former assistant in the NFL with the Chicago Bears, and spent time at Miami and Penn State in the college ranks. His second game as an NFL head coach, and John Lynch talked about the mentality that he has brought, the culture change here in Tampa Bay. Preston Parker back to receive Rob Barones' kick to start the second preseason game for both the Titans and the Buccaneers. The Bucs on offense, we'll get a look at that running back battle with LeGarrette Blount, the incumbent starter, and then the first-round draft pick, Doug Martin. Each had a touchdown in the opener, each with a different style, and time to sort that out. And preseason game number 2 underway, Bucs and Titans. Parker hesitates and downs it in the end zone wisely. So the Bucs will start at the 20-yard line on offense, where Josh Freeman, 5 attempts last week in the brief time, but settling in to Schiano's system.
He was efficient. We saw a lot of this in the 5 throws, little underneath throws. Nice throw right there to Mike Williams. Remember, this is an offense that's going to want to run the football and then get chunk yardage. Balls down the field in the passing game. Expect to see that tonight.
LeGarrette Blount in the backfield with Freeman. Vincent Jackson and Mike Williams, your receivers, on 1st and 10. Freeman to throw, and incomplete, intended for Vincent Jackson as Freeman gets knocked down to the turf. Let's take a look at the starting lineups, brought to you by Mid-Florida Credit Union, your community credit union.
And I thought LeGarrette Blount, a lot of people assumed with Doug Martin coming in as a first rounder he'd be out, but LeGarrette Blount really showed himself well, protected the football behind his big boy in Carl Nix. This guy is going to be a game changer. There's a reason they went out and paid him $45 million plus.
And there is Blount from a 1,000-yard season to 781 last year, and gets the carry. On 2nd down, picks up a healthy chunk of 4 yards, so it'll bring up 3rd and 6. Let's check the defense, brought to you by the Mid-Florida Credit Union, as the Tennessee Titans with Cameron Wimbley, part of that front 4 from Florida State.
Colin McCarthy in the middle, a local boy from Clearwater Central Catholic and University of Miami. A guy who really established himself as a good player in this league last year.
Jason McCourty, and one of the corners, a former Rutgers player who played, of course, under Greg Schiano. Now Doug Martin is checked in on 3rd down. Freeman has time, throws, and it's complete right at the first down marker to Vincent Jackson, his first catch as a Buccaneer.
I think it's pretty clear they're trying to get their new investment the ball. Sometimes that's dangerous in a preseason game. Josh Freeman not really going through his reads, trying to get the ball in 83's hands. But you can see why that's not a bad decision. This is a big-bodied guy in Vincent Jackson. Not much separation there, but his big body shields the defender away. Nice third down conversion for the Buccaneers.
80-yard pickup, so it's 1st and 10. Blunt is back in at running back. He gets the carry. Gets a little bit of running room. Vincent Jackson, by the way, with 9 touchdowns last year. In fact, 3 of the last 4 seasons have been 1,000-yard receiving seasons or more, and it's rare that a #1 receiver in his prime is on the open market, but that's something that General Manager Mark Dominic, the Bucs, had to have, and right away went out and spent the money to get to, as you said, surround Josh Freeman with some weapons.
He's a guy that has averaged, you see last season, 18.4 yards per catch. Throughout his career, 17.5. This guy is a guy who gets yards in chunks.
On 2nd down, Freeman fakes. Josh has it, is moving in the pocket, and gets rid of it to bring up a 3rd down. A lighter Josh Freeman. Much has been said about the 20 pounds he lost. It didn't all come from just the haircut.
He looks really good. He really does. As I mentioned last week, more than anything, it shows me a commitment. He had a down year last year. He went to work. I think he looks outstanding. He shared with us today, maybe a little scoop here, that he did it playing soccer. That was one of the keys. He played a lot of soccer in the offseason. You see the split screen there. You never thought of this guy as a guy who needs to lose weight, but he looks excellent. We'll see if it helps him on the field. More than anything, I think these new receivers are going to help him on the field.
Another 3rd down test coming up. And Freeman on the move. And slides just across the 40. Looks like he's going to be short of the 1st down. Josh had 4 rushing touchdowns last year. He is short. And, last year, too, along with Michael Vick and Eli Manning, one of the better quarterbacks who avoided sacks in the backfield and was able to gain something out of it. Here he gains yardage, but not enough for the 1st down. So Michael Kanan is in for the punt. And Mark Mariani back to receive for the Titans. Opening drive stalls for the Bucs. Kanan, who had 1 boot last week, hits another strong one. Mariani goes all the way back inside his 5-yard line. And the Bucs swarm him and bring him down to the 17.5-yard line. Andrew Economos making the stop after a terrific kick by Michael Kanan, who also kicks off for the Buccaneers. The Bucs will be on defense here in Tampa in just a moment.
That's not John Lynch, that's Gary Sheffield.
Pretty good hitter in his day.
Great hitter.
Tampa Bay area resident. Had a real attitude as a ball player.
My old neighbor here in Tampa.
We were hanging out in that high red district. Jake Locker hopes to hang out in that area as the starter for the Titans. This is his 1st ever, his 2nd year, but 1st ever preseason or no NFL start. Got into some games last year in relief of Hasselbeck. Hands off to Chris Johnson. Mark Barron up from the safety spot with the stop, but a pretty good gain on 1st down as we check the starting lineups, brought to you by Mid-Florida Credit Union. And Chris Johnson from Orlando, actually Olympia High School, hoping for a, as you said, a bounce-back year considering the contract issues and the numbers expected. On 2nd down. Again, it's Johnson finding running room. This time it's Mason Foster up from his middle linebacker spot. Bucs opened with 5 defensive backs. Interesting having Myron Lewis out there as we check the Mid-Florida Credit Union starting lineup for the defense. Claiborne and McCoy, the key guys up front.
And I thought that unit played well. This group is still a work in progress. Levante David, the rookie, looked outstanding last week. And this secondary, as I mentioned in the open, I think could become the strength of this defense.
On 3rd and short, after 2 runs to Johnson. He carries it for a 3rd straight time, but hit hard. Michael Bennett in his defensive end position. He can play inside and outside. Met Johnson right there, but see if the 3 straight runs have produced a Tennessee first down. And it looks like it did not.
And a great hold for the Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense. They're calling it 4th down. You watch Michael Bennett penetrate and get in the backfield. And then there come the posse, Mark Barron and the rest of them. Good stop for the Buccaneer defense.
Barron in his first NFL game didn't play in the preseason opener. 2-time captain at Alabama, the 7th overall pick. Forcing a 4th down and a flag at midfield. Looked like the Titans were delaying whether they might go for it or not, but the clock may have run out on them. Paul Lane, our referee. First-year NFL officials, the regular replay officials for the league in the booth upstairs here.
There is no foul on the play. Reset the play clock to 25 seconds.
The officials on that. The Titans were waiting for a measurement to see if it indeed was 4th down. The referees were a little late in getting that out, so no delay of game. Good job by the officials getting that straight.
Obviously, coaches allowed to request that measurement if it is within a yard or so. So Brett Kern back to punt. Preston Parker had a muff last week in the wet conditions with the fair catch called for just across the 26-yard line. Bucs will get a second try on offense. They had a first down before the last drive stalled. We're glad you're watching on the Buccaneers Television Network. Against the Panthers, it's Sunday, September 9th. Tickets on sale now. You can go to Buccaneers.com.
Chris, he's got so many starts. I tried to give him an extra year. I put him in his 17th year in our open. My old buddy's in his 16th year.
But he is 37 years old, and tickets are available for that game. 50% off on concessions, not the alcohol, of course, and certain parking allowances that are cheaper at the stadium for the September 9th regular season opener. On first down, Doug Martin, the rookie from Boise State. The first running back from Boise State ever drafted in the first round.
You know, and we keep talking about the competition between LeGarrette Blount and Doug Martin. What I really think they are is a great compliment. We saw in the first drive LeGarrette Blount going downhill and pounding that Tennessee Titan defense. Now we see the one-cut slashing style of a Doug Martin. This guy's a complete football player, really showed well last week, and they're very excited about the young man.
A pickup of 9. Freeman. He can run for the first down, instead throws high and incomplete. Intended for Mike Williams. There was plenty of room upfield.
And it was really a two-man route. They went with the hard play action, and it was the two receivers, Vincent Jackson and Mike Williams, out on the route. Good coverage by the Titans. I think in the regular season, that's an opportunity that Josh Freeman tucks it and run and gets positive yardage. But right now, I think he's trying to work on some things, and rightly so. You want to try to throw the football, get these receivers involved, get a little flow and rhythm in your offense.
On 3rd and 1, Vincent Jackson at the bottom of your screen on the left side of Freeman. Doug Martin, the running back. Martin the carry. And it looks like the Titans stonewalled him there to bring up a 4th down.
The Bucs, a good test in the first 2 weeks for this run game. Last week went against a very talented front seven in the Miami Dolphins. The same can be said for the Tennessee Titans. This is one of the better front sevens in football.
Colin McCarthy from Clearwater Central Catholic High School and the University of Miami, who wanted to be drafted by the Bucs, thought he might be. Instead, they took Mason Foster.
And Mark Dominic was telling us he wasn't too happy when he wasn't drafted by the Bucs. They passed him up. And he showed it in the way he played last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Michael
Kanan for Mariani, who has some room. Penalty flag back at the 18-yard line. He shot short of the 34-yard line. Another solid boot from Michael Kanan. A 46-yard punt. We might get the referee for a delay of game if we didn't get things moving here.
On the return, holding, return team, half the distance to the goal, first down.
We weren't given a number, but the penalty backs the Titans up, so it'll be a good opportunity for the Bucs on defense when we continue. Our only on 10 News, your preseason home of the Bucs. Number 1 pick Mike Barron getting ready as Chris Johnson splits out as a receiver on first down for Locker, who throws, and the catch is made, a short gain across the 11-yard line to tight end Craig Stevens. Jake Locker, second year for him, 8th overall in 2011 after 4 seasons at Washington, decided to stay in college when he could have come out early.
And at one point they were talking to him about being the number 1 player chosen. Didn't have as good a senior year as he would have liked, and still was the 8th pick. This is a guy who's a big arm, very talented athlete, can run the football very well at the quarterback position as well.
4 touchdown passes in relief last year with no interceptions. Hasselbeck had a terrific year last season for the Titans as Johnson carries in an excellent defensive play made for a loss by Eric Wright.
And one consistent positive for this Buccaneer defense in the first 2 preseason games, they've been playing in the opposing team's backfield. That's what you want to do as a defense. Watch this whole side of the screen as you see Eric Wright. They're going to be playing the ball game in the Titans side of the ball, and that's what you want to do. You want to penetrate.
And usually the guys would move on that. Here it is, 3rd down. Locker has time, throws across, and is intercepted. That's Ahmad Black with the pick for the Buccaneers, and he's still going. All the way down inside the 2-yard line of Tennessee. A 28-yard return for the former Gator and Lakeland High star.
Yeah, and people around here, that's what they know this guy is all about. He makes plays, has always done it. Not supposed to be fast enough, not supposed to be big enough, but always has had a knack for making plays. Jake Locker overthrows it right in Ahmad Black's hands, and I wonder if he played running back at Lakeland High. He looked pretty good on that run back.
Fighting for a backup safety spot. Jamon Meredith in at tight end now with Dallas Clark from the 2-yard line as the Bucs get their best scoring opportunity in this game. LeGarrette Blount the back. Freeman to LeGarrette Blount, and he goes nowhere. Titans bottle him up.
We talked about the Buccaneers playing in the Titans' backfield. That's what the Titans are doing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. They're winning the line of scrimmage as a defensive line, something Tampa did very well last week. We'll see if they air it out here now on 2nd down.
No gain for Blount. You pointed out, John, in the preseason opener, they pounded away 4 straight times when they got close. This time 3 wide receivers.
Vincent Jackson in the slot.
Freeman. End zone for Mike Williams. There's a flag and a touchdown, Tampa Bay. The Bucs' number 2 receiver was the number 1 target on that play. We'll check the flag.
See a simple
Illegal
fade
contact.
route.
Number 20 defense. That penalty declined by rule. Touchdown.
That's what Mike Williams can do for you. He's a big-bodied receiver who's helped out immensely with the acquisition of Vincent Jackson. Analysts like me are circling Vincent Jackson on that play. That's what defenses are doing. They're putting their attention on Vincent Jackson, Dallas Clark. I think it's going to pave the way for a big year for Mike Williams. We just saw a great connection between those two, who connected a lot there 2 years ago.
You were out on the field when Jackson was running, right? And when you were a Bronco?
It was tough to cover. We had fits with him. Champ Bailey, as good as corner as ever played in this league, Vincent Jackson had a lot of success against us in Denver, catching balls from Phillip Rivers.
I noticed in the elevator at the hotel you got close to Vincent Jackson. You didn't want him to get away. Connor Barth to try the extra point after the touchdown toss. Freeman to Williams. And we have a flag. John, that was one of the things Greg Schiano talked to us about, as you said, bringing a guy like Vincent Jackson. Mike Williams was pushed into that #1 receiver spot last year, and he has great hand-eye coordination and can do a lot of things, but is more suited, and this is not an insult, but as a #2 receiver can be more productive.
Well, and you start to see all of a sudden, we'll let the referee call the penalty here someday.
Encroachment, defense, half the distance, replay the try.
But people say, why would Vincent Jackson make Mike Williams a better player? First of all, there's competition. Mike Williams still wants to be that #1. But more importantly than that, all of a sudden he's drawing the #2 corner as opposed to the top corner on the other squad. That's a big difference. A guy like Mike Williams can take advantage of that. As I keep saying, I think he's going to have a big year as a result.
Cortland Finnegan now with the Rams, the one-time feisty corner here in Tennessee. So Connor Barth will line up again with Kane in the holder after the Tennessee penalty, and the extra point is good. So a turnover leads to a touchdown, and the Bucs, who struck first in their opener against the Dolphins on the road, have a 7-0 lead here in the opening quarter at home against the Titans. Locker in his first start, intercepted by the backup safety, which set up the touchdown toss.
We saw Josh Freeman, simple fade route. That's saying I like my guys' chances better than those guys' chances. Mike Williams does a great job of earning the trust of Josh Freeman by reeling it in.
And you saw the flag and the interference against the Tennessee defense, not necessary. And there's Freeman with his bookend receivers, 1 and 2, or 1 and 1A. And what a kick. And deep, Mariani brings it out. Kanan again with a strong boot. And Mark Mariani gets all the way out to the 29-yard line. Tennessee set up with that field position that wasn't very good because of a penalty, and then on third down, you force the turnover. We're glad you're watching wherever you're watching on one of the many Buccaneer TV affiliates down at Cheddar's and Fort Myers or on the NFL Network. And our troops overseas, we're glad you're with us. Chris Johnson the back at 1st and 10 Titans. Pressure from the Bucs. The throw off the hands and almost another possibility at an interception. Mark Barron was back there for the loose football, and Talib on the coverage.
Right away you see what Aqib Talib brings to this defense. We saw the Buccaneers really get hurt by this slant route last week versus the Dolphins. Aqib Talib so good in coverage and so long. You see that long arm get in there and break up. He's just a great physical specimen at the corner position. 205 pounds, bigger corner, long arms, can run. Big time player.
Chris Johnson out, falls short of the 35-yard line to bring up another third down for Jake Locker. And there was some pressure up front, John, that, something last week, there wasn't a sack from this team, but they still did put good pressure on the Dolphin quarterback.
And that's what it's really all about. Eventually you want to finish the deal and get the sacks, but most importantly, you got to affect the passer. You got to affect the Jake Lockers of the world and make them think twice about really stepping into a target.
On third down. Javon Ringer in as the running back. Lockers throw off the hands at the 40-yard line. It'll be 4th down. Mark Barron with the coverage on Jared Cook, one of the Titan tight ends.
And Chris, we talked about you got to get to the opposing passer, whether it be with front four or pressure. Here we're going to see pressure. They bring Rondé Barber playing the dime. They bring Mason Foster, Gerald McCoy with pressure right up the gut. That's affecting. It affected the accuracy of the pass from Locker. Great job getting off the field. That's the creative pressure that Greg Schiano is talking about.
Brett Kern will punt again. Preston Parker back to receive for the Bucs, standing at his 20-yard line. Fair catch called for. Steps in front of a Titan, where the Bucs will take over at the 23.5-yard line. Last time out, it was a short field. The Bucs offense produced. We'll see what Josh Freeman and the gang have in store straight ahead on the Buccaneers Television Network. And Josh Freeman, you talked about how he told us losing the weight, just wanted to get in better shape, and it wasn't a little bit of the diet, but mostly running around at a soccer field. He pointed out, showed us the direction here in Tampa, so that kept him in game shape. And moving around early with a touchdown toss on 1st and 10. Pressure coming, has to get rid of it. Floats it in the area out of bounds. If Mike Williams, it'll be 2nd down. Colin McCarthy again putting some pressure on. But John, Martin Fennelly of the Tampa Tribune, and speaking to Vincent Jackson, Jackson told Martin that, hey, he's a top 5 quarterback, referring to Josh Freeman.
Well, I like his confidence in his quarterback, but I would beg to differ thus far. I think he can be. I think he's got the tools to be. But when you're talking top 5, you're talking the elite guys. You're talking the Bradys, the Mannings of the world. He's not there yet, particularly after last year. Can he get there? I believe he's got the tools, but he's got to show it this year.
He's got the tool in Vincent Jackson. He is number 5. That's what he wears, as Doug Martin is in the backfield on 2nd and 10. Martin Fennelly of the Tampa Tribune, along with Roy Cummings and Ira Kaufman, cover the Bucs. As Martin carries, breaking tackles, and look at Doug Martin go. There is a flag down back at the 26-yard line.
Now, unfortunately, I think this is coming back on a hold, but Doug Martin continues to impress. Breaking tackles, slashing through the defense.
Holding, 76 offense, 10 yards, repeat 2nd down.
Like the center, Jeremy Zutah. But Doug Martin, I mean, we had the one run last week when it looked like he was knocked off his feet. I think he's got tremendous balance. He reminds me a lot of Warwick Dunn, my old teammate with the Buccaneers. A smaller frame in terms of height, but a little bigger than Warwick Dunn. This guy's 215 pounds, can catch the ball, can block. He's got the total package.
Greg Schiano referring a little bit to the Ray Rice runner from Rutgers in Baltimore. He could be that kind of player. Freeman with time and throws, and it's bouncing on the turf. Would have been intercepted had it not been by Jason McCourty, one of those former Rutgers players we were talking about with Greg Schiano. And that's how Greg Schiano wants it pronounced. Schiano like piano. I know we slip into it, but that's his, as he said, hey, in New Jersey where I'm from, that's the way we pronounce it, Schiano.
And you don't mess with those Jersey guys. He hangs out with Tony Soprano.
James Gandolfini, and of course Bill Parcells. You know, when you sit in a meeting, just in the meeting with Greg Schiano, reminds you a little more of Parcells than he does of Bill Belichick, although some of the influences in his coaching career. So a deep hole on 3rd down. Freeman's throw caught by Danny Noble, the tight end. They want to get him some work. Free agent out of Toledo. And in the tight end position, one we'll be talking about, a bit of a concern for Josh Freeman and this Buccaneer team.
Well, I think it is. I think what you want to do, you want to have Dallas Clark healthy for opening day, and he's a guy who struggled with injury, particularly the last couple of years. So I think they're right by having him get 10 plays and get out. But you got to find some guys. Luke Stocker has been somewhat of a disappointment, hasn't been the player they thought they'd be, and they need guys there. It's such a position, critical position in today's NFL.
Eric Guthrie giving Canaan a break to punt for Darius Reynaud, who had quite a game last week with a return for a touchdown and ran a touchdown in. No return on this inside the 29-yard line of Tennessee. Friday night here in Tampa, Chief Meteorologist Jim Van Fleet has the weekend forecast after the game on 10 News, and if you can't wait, you can always check out the weather at WTSP.com. Jim Van Fleet, the best in the business from Tampa Bay's Weather Authority, 10 News. Luke Stocker, by the way, some illness, and they are concerned they'll be checking preliminary tests for possible concussion symptoms, something the Buccaneers are looking into. Stalker inactive tonight and has missed the last few practices for Tampa Bay. Blocker on first down. Completes after rolling out. Knocked out at the 40 as Craig Stevens. Eric Wright with him for a first down.
And that's what the Tennessee Titans, when you want to say what's their offense going to look like, that's what they want to do. They want Chris Johnson to get back to the form that we saw early in his career. And then with Jake Locker or Matthew Hasselbeck, you've got quarterbacks that can get out on the perimeter and do some damage on bootlegs and such.
And the Titans concerned about Kenny Britt coming off an injury from last year, but also some disciplinary action that may come from the league. It's in the hands of the NFL office. That's why they drafted Kendall Wright out of Baylor with their top pick. But a fresh set of downs for Jake Locker. Throws and incomplete. And a tough hit after the ball went by. Here comes a flag. It was Ahmad Black on Javon Ringer.
Ahmad Black with an aggressive play, a nice hit, but the ball was overthrown, and with the emphasis on safety in today's NFL, they're going to call this every time. You're going to see it at the top of our screen right there. Ball overthrown, and he lets him have it. Replacement officials, regular officials, they're going to call that every time.
It looked like Black started his move toward Ringer before the ball had crossed, but that's not an excuse.
And sometimes you lose the ball.
53 defense, 15 yards from the previous spot, automatic first down.
He meant number 43.
It wasn't 53, it was 43 Ahmad Black. And
it'll set the Titans up, John, at the 45 of Tampa Bay in Buccaneer territory for the first time tonight. Mike Munchak looking on as Jake Locker, the first-round pick investment. Matt Hasselbeck, the veteran of 14 years, had good numbers last year. They also have Rusty Smith from Florida Atlantic on their roster. Chris Johnson has room and gets down to the 35 of Tampa Bay before Quincy Black runs him down.
And that's the little of the burst that I think we all know Chris Johnson as, the guy who neared 2,000 yards a couple years ago. This is a guy who's one of the fastest guys. At one point he said he wanted to take on Usain Bolt. And I tell you what, watching him a couple years ago, I would have thought he had a chance, but wasn't that same guy. Didn't have that same burst last year. Still had over 1,000 yards rushing.
But late in the year, and only 4 touchdowns after the contract issue, disappointing by his standards. A 10-yard pickup on 1st and 10. Locker keeps all the way down to the 15 of Tampa Bay. First down, Titans.
And I told you, I mean, this guy's a good athlete. We watched it last year. This guy can run around and make plays. He brings that dimension to this offense. Is he a polished passer yet? No, but this can make up for a lot of that. They collapse the pocket. They lose some integrity in the front of that line, and he just simply runs away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense.
A 21-yard run from Jake Locker. And as the first quarter winds down,
Chris Palmer, the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans.
Tennessee knocking on the door. The pitch to Chris Johnson. He's got room. Chris Johnson has a Tennessee touchdown.
Chris Johnson, touchdown Tennessee.
That's not good defense. You know, they came in, the Tennessee Titans' intent. Mike Munchak, he wanted to see Chris Johnson. They announced it. We're going to get him the ball. We're going to get some carries. Again, trying to establish some mentality. He's an old offensive lineman, and Chris Johnson's starting to look like the guy that went for 2,000 yards plus in 2010. And shoddy tackling, bad loss of contain by Aqib Talib. Everybody says Mark Barron misses. Nuh-uh. He's expecting Aqib Talib to turn that ball back in. Not good discipline on defense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Chris Johnson makes them pay.
All scoring plays, double-checked. Clean, and got the approval for the extra point as Barones comes on. Tennessee answers the touchdown pass from Freeman to Mike Williams with a Chris Johnson run here. 30 seconds remaining in the opening quarter. And the extra point is good. We are tied at 7. And the Rams scoring drive, 71 yards, nearly 4 minutes. An impressive drive against the Buccaneer defense.
Impressive drive and not so impressive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. I mean, this is a defense that was down at the bottom of the league and last in the league in scoring defense last year. And we just saw on that drive a lot of the reasons why. You can bring in new coaches, but ultimately you got to have the players out there and they got to do their jobs the way they're coached.
Gary Gibson and Amobi Okoye are not playing with injuries in the game. You talk about depth on that defensive line, the trading of Brian Price. Roy Miller pressed into a starting role and Daquan Bowers out until at least November. That defensive line, there's not a lot of depth there for Greg Schiano.
Yeah, and you got two studs in Gerald McCoy and Adrian Claiborne. Michael Bennett's a nice player. I think opposite of Gerald McCoy inside, they've got Roy Miller right now, but really not a presence. Gerald McCoy's going to get a lot of attention. It's going to be interesting to see if he can deliver with all that attention coming his way.
So the Titans respond. There's Michael Smith, who had 2 big runs, returns I should say. A 70-plus yarder against the Dolphins. The speedster, who, as you joked with Greg Schiano, he has great speed, but he was caught from behind, which they all teased him about the minute he got back to the sideline.
You ever get caught in this league, you're going to get teased, particularly if you're a 4.33 guy. And Greg Schiano said the only problem is that the other guy was a 4.33 guy as well.
Michael Smith, the 7th-round draft pick out of Utah State. He has NASCAR speed. And Rob Baronis drives it toward the end zone. Here comes Mr. Smith. And a good-looking return all the way out across the 28-29-yard line.
You got to like the way he attacks. Usually, sometimes with speedsters, they like to prance. Michael Smith, he hits the hole hard. And when you have a returner, we alluded to it last week, it can add so much. Its drive start it's like another first down. And as we saw last week, it set up a touchdown. Michael Smith went for the 73-yard return.
23 seconds remaining. And so far, Josh Freeman has gone the distance.
And I like to see it. You know, we've watched within this division, Matt Ryan lighting people up, throwing the football all over. He hasn't been in great rhythm, Josh Freeman, tonight, and I think keep him out there until he establishes some rhythm.
That Tennessee defense has had something to do with it. LeGarrette Blount the back at 1st and 10. Blount with nowhere to go. Swarming Titan defense. It'll be no gain for Blount, who went from a 1,000-yard season to 781 last year and had trouble holding on to the football. Plus the trade up in the first round, the drafting of Doug Martin, and a battle at the running back spot for the starter. That is the end of the opening quarter on the Ram Truck scoreboard. The Bucs 7, the Titans 7. John Lynch, Chris Myers, you're watching the Buccaneers Television Network.
Well, it looks like we have our first injury of the second preseason game. It's not one of the players, it's one of the officials. It's the umpire, number 65, Lamont Mahoney, injured his foot on one of the plays just a little while ago. He came limping off, and he has left the game. He'll be replaced. They do have a replacement umpire for him. Chris?
Thanks, Dave. So we have a replacement for the replacement. on second down, LeGarrette Blount remains the back. We hope the official is okay. Most of the starters still in. As Freeman's pass is complete. That's Danny Noble, his second catch of the night. You talked about the tight end position. Dallas Clark, the starter. We mentioned Stocker. There's Zach Bianalto, Colin Franklin, and 7th-round draft pick Drake Dunsmore.
And they're looking for someone to step up. They like what they have in Dallas Clark, but you got to be a little concerned. He hasn't been able to stay healthy the last couple of years. Luke Stocker, I don't want to sound like he's a bust. He just hasn't had the impact that they thought he would have as of yet. It's still early in his career. Danny Noble is a guy that has flashed in practice. Greg Schiano told us that they were going to give him an opportunity to play with the ones here today and see what he can do. Good job right there, bringing the ball in from Josh Freeman.
He played all 4 seasons, second on the team in touchdowns at Toledo. On a 3rd down play. This incomplete. It was a low throw for Vincent Jackson. But that'll bring up a 4th down for the Bucs.
continuing to try to get the ball to Vincent Jackson, trying to establish some connection between Josh Freeman and Vincent Jackson in game action, and the Titans have done really a nice job in coverage.
Eric Guthrie back to punt again, giving Kanan a break. Guthrie played his college football at Iowa, born in El Salvador. Hoping to catch on somewhere as Darius Reynaud takes it in at the 15 for the Titans. Darius Reynaud with room, brought down at midfield, or he might still be running. Ahmad Black, who's been all over the place, made the tackle. The Titans in a 7-all tie with good field position when we return. Head coach Greg Schiano here in the second quarter as the Buccaneers defense, their starting linebacking core, stays in. Anthony Gator comes in at corner for Talib. As Chris Johnson is the back, it's a 1st and 10 at midfield for the Titans. This is Locker. Batted in the air and almost intercepted, but good pressure. Defensive linemen with their arms up. Roy Miller creating problems for Locker.
And a great job by Michael Bennett at the left end. I don't know how that's not a hold, that's a takedown. But again, affecting the quarterback from the two ends. Claiborne and Michael Bennett delivering on bringing the heat like we called for in the open.
And Miller with the batted pass, so a 2nd down 10. Creative ways to provide the pressure on the quarterback is what Greg Schiano wants to do. Johnson, who has a touchdown run already, goes nowhere.
And that's what you like to see, swarming, a lot of hats on the ball. Now we talk about creative ways. That last way, the 2 inch just beating their man, is what every coach would love to do. It's what we had the luxury of doing in our heyday because we had the likes of Warren Sapp and a Simeon Rice and a Greg Spires, guys that could mano-a-mano whoop the guy in front of them, the New York Giants. They just keep bringing pass rushers. But if you aren't going to get there that way, Greg Schiano said, I promise you we'll bring pressure, and it's what his defenses have always done.
On 3rd down and 9. Looks like pressure is on the way here. Walker's throw and incomplete. Jared Cook had his hands on it, but there were Bucs surrounding him, including Anthony Gator.
You've been studying football, my friend, because pressure is what they brought right up the gut. Brought more than the Titans could handle. Jake Locker had to get the ball out of their hands. A little miscommunication with the Titans. Off the field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hanging out with you, you're walking around with that iPad everywhere. You're watching. I think you're still playing the way you're breaking down plays and chopping up coach's video. Sammy Strotter is back to receive Brett Kern's punt. Strotter's first chance to return tonight after Preston Parker, and the fair catch called for just beyond the 11-yard line. Buccaneer offense will take over. You can choose your battles. Tampa Bay Buccaneers individual game tickets are on sale now for as low as $30. Go today to Buccaneers.com. Remember that opener against Carolina at Cam Newton. 50% off on the concessions, non-alcohol, free parking in certain select areas at the stadium. And the streak of Rondé Barber continues. And, of course, Greg Schiano be a part of Buccaneer history, his first regular season game as a head coach. And the number 2 quarterback signed, Greg Orlovsky, steps into the game for Josh Freeman.
You see the 2 guards, the Pro Bowl guards, Carl Nix and Davin Joseph, trying to go get some more action. And the coaches sent back Larson and Derek Hardman, the backup guards. Those guys want to keep on playing.
This is Doug Martin. For Orlovsky, 8 out of 8 last week, and Tyquan, that's what he wants to be. Tyquan Underwood was his go-to guy deep.
Orlovsky looked really good. 8 out of 8. That's as good as you can get. And everybody talks about the presence that Orlovsky brings, how he's going to help Josh Freeman. You need your backup quarterback to be able to play, as the Indianapolis Colts learned last year. And that's where Orlovsky comes from. He won 2 games late in the season. but they do feel he's going to be a great asset to Josh Freeman as well. Another set of eyes for him on the sideline.
They're going to run it with Doug Martin, who cannot slip through across the 21-yard line. Tyquan Underwood, number 11, the former Rutgers star, in on that play, battling for a backup receiver spot. And in pretty good stead, there he is.
That young man right there, Doug Martin, I think there haven't been a whole lot of bright spots for the Buccaneer offense today. It's been sputtering a little, but that young man's playing some football, and you see why so many people were so high on him throughout the league. This is a guy whose draft stock was just rising immensely, and the Buccaneers grabbed him, and I think they're going to be happy that they did, as Buccaneer fans will be as well.
Captain on his college team, 16 touchdowns as a senior. We have a whistle and a flag here on 3rd down.
Ball start, 65 offense, 5-yard penalty, repeat 3rd down.
Call is on Jeremy Trueblood.
You know, and look, penalties happen, new quarterback in, different cadence. But right there, why do penalties hurt you? You go from 3rd and 1, where the probability of converting is very high. Now all of a sudden at 3rd and 6, percentages go down drastically. Penalties hurt you. Greg Schiano said, look, I don't want to be the least penalized team, but those kind of penalties before the snap, not aggressive ones, just ones that are mental errors, those hurt you.
Need to get up to the 22 for a 1st down. Tennessee jumps, and the run goes nowhere to Martin with the flag down.
So we're back to where we started with the 3rd and 1.
It's a good 1-2 punch with LeGarrette Blount and Doug Martin.
Offsides, defense, number 91, 5-yard penalty, repeat 3rd down.
Call on Derek Morgan of the Titans.
Good job by Orlowski, though. You have a veteran quarterback who knows 3rd and 6. What's a defensive end want to do? He wants to pin his ears back and come get you. So what do? You hard count him, and you gain back those yards you lost on the penalty. Smart play by Dan Orlowski.
Eric Lorig, the fullback. Doug Martin in the backfield with Blount looking on. Martin tries to squirm for the 1st down and gets it. You know, usually he runs around. It looked like he went under people to get near the 25-yard line.
And one of the things you notice with Doug Martin right away is the vision. This play's intended to go to the left side, but he sees the hole on the right side. He comes right back to that hole. Just watch. This is what Doug Martin's seeing. Right there, supposed to be going left. Sees the entire Tennessee defense going left, going right, and he comes back. He runs to daylight, as they say, to simplify it. Guy has the total package. He sees things well, and then he's got the athletic ability to react to it.
Had 7 carries in the preseason opener against Miami, including a touchdown. Under pressure, the ball is loose, and the Titans are on it at the 10-yard line. Marks with the recovery. He actually forced the fumble on Orlowski, who never had a chance. And Duzable from Central Florida comes up with the football for the Titans.
Well, this is what you call a jailbreak right up the middle. Dan Orlowski has no chance. You cannot have pressure. Jeremy Zutaw, the center, gets beat right up the middle by Senderick Marks. This is still the number 1 defense for the Tennessee Titans, but Jeremy Zutaw is the number 1 center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and flat out gets beat, and they lose the ball as a result.
And a new official review, it's being looked at upstairs when there is a fumble that is recovered by the defense, or any interception or a muffed punt. Those are reviewed, and certainly that was given the okay automatically, so there's no need for a challenge. Orlowski the turnover. Titans with a 1st down. Chris Johnson with nowhere to go. He'll lose yardage. Lavonte David.
This guy's a football player, Lavonte David. You talk about people that flash on defense. You don't have to be an expert to see great football players who fly to the football. I'm not saying he's a great football player yet, but just watch that. You don't have to be an expert. This guy misses the tackle, gets back up against a great player like Chris Johnson. Had the interception last week, but more importantly, all over the field. He's got a great instinct, a nose for the ball, and can get there because he's flat out fast.
2nd round pick out of Nebraska, who's already a starter for this Bucs team. after the 5-yard loss. Blocker, pass complete at the 6-yard line. Rifled that throw in to the first-round pick of the Titans, Kendall Wright. And Myron Lewis, who is on the bubble, was back there covering.
You got to like this if you're a Tennessee Titan fan. Mike Munchak, he wants to see his first unit out there. His first defense was still out there. This is his first offense. He wants to give Jake Locker an opportunity to play with the starters. Chris Johnson's still out there. All his starters. We'll see if the Bucs can stand up.
On 3rd and goal. Jake Locker, end zone throw is incomplete. Jared Cook, his tight end, was back there. 4th down and a field goal attempt for Tennessee.
And that's a win for this Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense. They get the turnover on the Orlovsky fumble. And what you want to do is not let the other team in the end zone. You keep them to a field goal, you're doing your job.
Rob Baronis, who's been one of the more reliable, steady kickers in the NFL, and good from long range. This should be chip shot for him. A 24-yard try. To break the tie. Nice hold after the snap was a bit low, and the kick is through. So Tennessee, after trailing 7-0, has bounced back. Chris Johnson touchdown run and a Rob Baronis field goal, and the Titans have a 10-7 second quarter lead. The Bucs get the football when we return. Here in the second quarter, preseason game number 2. There's the Bucs bench. Todd Torselli, the trainer, marking things down, as Orlovsky, who had the turnover after the tremendous rush put on by the Titans. And they end up with 3.
Talk about best in the business. Todd Torselli, one of the great trainers in the NFL, so essential to these teams, keeping guys healthy. They're oftentimes a psychologist to a lot of these players. There's a lot of guys spend a lot of time in the training room, and Todd Torselli is good as it gets.
Sammy Strotter back to return the kick. And Baronis from the 35. Only 53% of the kicks were run back last year across the board in the National Football League. Concussions were down some 40%. Strotter will not bring it out. Bucs take over at the 20-yard line. Josh Freeman, done for the night, was 4 out of 10, 21 yards passing, including a touchdown. Orlovsky on in relief.
And next week is where we'll really see, we always talk about the 3rd preseason game being the extended action for the starters. You're going to see Josh Freeman extensively work next week against the New England Patriots. A great test for him.
Patriots will be at Raymond James here next Friday night. We'll have more in a moment.
Former player for Greg Schiano, who suffered that horrible injury. Well, here tonight, he did the towing cost for the Bucs. He was also a member of the Bucs for a while before training camp started. We had a chance to talk to Eric before the game about his recovery.
You know, that's what I'm trying to do, you know, inspire a world of people. Every day just try to inspire one person by just being the person that I am. And, you know, a lot of people just get onto the story from what had happened, but this is the person I always was, and I'm happy that I'm able to touch other people and inspire them just living my daily life and the struggles that I go through, you know, just got to keep on continuing to fight and inspire them.
Are you looking forward to looking at your coach's defense tonight and maybe giving him a little help of analysis?
Hey, we were just talking about it a little bit, so we'll see what goes on out there, as I know some of the plays, so we'll see what's going to happen.
That's one of the things Eric LeGrand wants to do with his life, is get into television, maybe do some football analysis. Chris?
Thanks to Abe. And Greg Schiano, who coached him at Rutgers, wanted Eric to have the dream. He thought he would see his name called on draft day, but because of the injury, could only watch, and was nice that he was able to be signed to a pro contract, retire as a Buccaneer. And currently 6 Rutgers players on this 90-man roster for Coach Schiano and the Bucs. On second down, pass is intercepted off the hands of the intended receiver. Chris Hawkins came down with it. Orlovsky's throw was drilled Hawkins picks up the deflection.
Really a nice play. Hawkins gets the interception, but that play's made by Akeem Ayers. Watch Akeem Ayers right there with a good flat break. Lays out, gets his hands on the ball.
Drake Dunsmore, the tight end, 7th round pick from Northwestern, was the target.
And Hawkins just the beneficiary, but an outstanding play by Akeem Ayers, a player that they're very high on in Tennessee, and rightly so. They think he brings a lot to the package for this Tennessee Titan defense led by defensive coordinator Jerry Gray, my former teammate here in Tampa.
And one of the candidates before Greg Schiano was named head coach of the Bucs, one of the more than 15 interviewed for the Tampa Bay head coaching job. So another turnover. Blocker almost intercepted in the end zone. Cutting across was Cody Grimm.
That's a play that both Myron Lewis and Cody Grimm, watch the eyes. This can happen with a young quarterback. You lock on that receiver in this league, these guys are too good. They're going to be there. And if Cody Grimm doesn't touch it, I think Myron Lewis has that football. Good break by both of those players for the Buccaneer defense.
Chris Johnson remains the running back on 2nd and 14. Or I should say 2nd down from the 14. And there goes Chris Johnson, a touchdown, Tennessee.
Talk about contain and leverage. Myron Lewis loses leverage right here. And a good run turns into a touchdown for Chris Johnson. You watch at the end of this play, too much room right there, but Myron Lewis has to stay outside, turn that ball back out to Ahmad Black. When you don't do it, there's breakdowns in the defense. And we've seen it twice here tonight.
So now a 16-7 Titan advantage. Chris Johnson with a couple of scores, and Barones with an extra point can make it a 10-point difference. At one time, Tennessee trailed 7-0. But a fumble by Dan Orlovsky and then the interception. Hawkins with a takeaway for Tennessee. And back at Olympia High School in Orlando, they're watching and appreciating the running of Chris Johnson. And our Ram Truck scoring drive. Don't have to go far after miscues. Tennessee's defense doing the job setting up the Titans offense. John always wanted to be a game show host if he didn't play in the NFL. Chris, I heard you had a pretty good baseball career too back in the day. But on September 17th, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy are on 10 News. Same times, new channel. Wheel of Fortune weeknights at 7, Jeopardy weeknights at 7:30, starting September 17th on 10 News. And you love games, whether it's on the field or...
Absolutely, I'm a whiz at Jeopardy.
Your Stanford education, I'll bet you win all the time on the... You know, the thing is you got to do... On Jeopardy, right, you have to say, what is, and the answer, right? That's how you have to do it. Well, no game playing here. Greg Schiano, they had one turnover, his Bucs in the preseason opener, already 2 tonight.
And you see that. Turnovers turn into points. And that's why, you know, we talk about Josh Freeman so much, all the interceptions last year. You got to eliminate those. Turnovers turn to points in this league. You can't do it as an offense. And we're seeing the benefits. If you have a defense like the Titans right now that are creating turnovers, that they turn into points for your offense. Michael Smith with that blazing speed back to return. Strawder returned the last kick. Here goes Smith. Michael Smith, always exciting out across the 25-yard line. And let's talk a little bit about the Buccaneer defense, which has been in a hole. We talked about turnovers. For the most part, they've done a pretty good job. Yeah, they have. I mean, right now, I think you're starting to see the Tennessee Titans, who still have their starters out there, and Chris Johnson and all the guys up front against the Buccaneers, twos in reality. And so you're starting to see the Titans start to impose their will. Mike Munchak clearly came into this game with a mission of establishing his run game, and it's starting to pay dividends for the Titans. And for Jake Locker, try to overcome an early interception and nail down the starting quarterback job over Matt Hasselbeck. Certainly, Chris Johnson has done a job against some of those reserve Tampa Bay defenders, but when the first unit was in there,
that's when they seem to keep the Titans offense in check, which included Chris Johnson. But right now it's a 17-7 game with 6:50 to go before the half.
But we watch the offense now, but I think this defense has legitimate questions. There's questions that have to be answered. It wasn't a good defense last year. You bring in a new scheme, but again, it comes down to players. I think they're good on the front end. You can't afford any injuries, and they're not very deep as a defense. We'll see how that plays out this year.
On 2nd and 8, Orlowski floats one for LeGarrette Blount. It was high, but he couldn't hold on as the ball hung in the air, and Zach Dials got over there to knock it away. It'll be 3rd down.
And the Tennessee Titans, their defense starting to impose their will. See Carl Klug right in the middle get past Wynn, the left guard, and that's why you need that pressure, and you got to protect your quarterback. Dan Orlowski, Drew Brees, anybody, you get pressure like that, they aren't going to do too well back there.
Moses Madu checks in, second-year player from Oklahoma, who was a slot receiver as a junior, but a running back, played all 4 years for the Sooners. See if Orlowski can get out of the hole here on 3rd and 8. High snap. Has time and throws low and incomplete. Preston Parker, the receiver. It'll be 4th down. And for Dan Orlowski, Saturday is 29th birthday. Not a good way to celebrate.
Well, and that's what you see. That's why you want to hit quarterbacks, because the next throw, they aren't so sure, and it affects their accuracy. See the shoulder pad hanging out there. I mean, that position's tough when you got these big boys breathing down your neck. And sometimes you start seeing ghosts, and it affects the accuracy of your next play. That's why there's so much emphasis in this league on getting pressure and affecting these quarterbacks.
Eric Guthrie back to punt for Tampa Bay. Darius Reynaud to return for Tennessee. Reynaud dancing up across the 35-yard line. A nifty return. Jake Locker has gone all the way at quarterback for Tennessee. We'll see if he continues in just a moment. These Buccaneers on defense, George Johnson out there on the defensive line, Frank Okam, some of the reserves, and Cody Grimm on the field as Aqib Talib and Mark Barrett, who got the start tonight, already out of the game. They'll play a lot more next Friday against New England. Lavonte David remains in. Renard, the running back. And Reynaud gets the carry. Darius Reynaud! He had 2 touchdowns last week and gets all the way inside the 25 of the Bucs before Anthony Gator ran him down.
Well, Lavonte David just saw what the NFL is all about right there. That quarterback, that fullback Quinn Johnson takes it to Lavonte David. Too many holes in this Buccaneer defense, though. Their run fits are not on cue, and you got a team like Tennessee who came in with the mission to run the football, and they're getting done what their head coach wanted to. They're starting to gash this Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense.
39-yard run from Darius Reynaud, and here they run a little screen to Reynaud. From West Virginia, he was a free agent, once a Viking, once a Giant. And of course, when Greg Schiano coached at Rutgers, he faced West Virginia on a regular basis, could never beat those guys. In fact, he drafted a couple of defensive players in Keith Tandy and Najee Good from West Virginia. Javon Ringer checks in. Chris Johnson out, as is Reynaud. Here's Najee Good. 5th round pick. On 2nd and 12. Ringer carries.
Well, a lot of people may be saying, why would you have a guy like Locker if you think he's going to be your starting quarterback still in the game? But he's a young player. He needs reps, and I think veteran players need reps. I mean, they talk about taking it to 2 preseason games. It's not enough. There's 90 players on rosters these days, not enough reps to go down. There's rule restrictions as to how much you can practice 2-a-days no longer. You need reps, and you need nothing more than game reps. And a good move by Mike Munchak to lead Jake Locker out there. Could he get hurt? Absolutely, but you gotta play. You gotta see things, and you gotta feel things. And I like him keeping Jake Locker in the game.
On 3rd and 8. There's a flag down. The catch made at the 15. Jared Cook has enough, it looks like, for a first down, but we'll have to check the flag.
It's going to be a holding penalty.
Holding. 68 offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat third down.
Byron Stingley got the call.
Watch Dakota Watson up here at the top of the screen. Little spin move. Sometimes you don't have to get the sack. That's as good as a sack, drawing the holding penalty. Dakota Watson continues to impress me. Every time he comes in, he makes a difference. And they're looking for pass rush. This is a guy, to me, you got to have on the field more.
7th round draft pick, former Florida State Seminole, could bring the heat this time on 3rd and 18. Maybe knock him out of field goal range. Walker is on the loose and gets out of bounds, picking up a few. Gator ran him out around the 30-yard line.
Good coverage by the Buccaneers. They bluff bringing Dakota Watson, but only come with the 3-man rush. That leaves more people in coverage, and Locker did the only thing he could do, which is hold on to the ball and get out of bounds. Sets up the field goal attempt for Barones and the Tennessee Titans.
Locker showing some of that athletic ability, escaping to set up the field goal try of 48 yards. Barones 1 out of 1 so far. Can make it a 20-7 Titan lead. Snap, kick, and got it. Hope you stay with us at halftime. We'll have highlight stats. Dave Worth will chat with wide receiver Tyquan Underwood, who was thrown to once tonight, had a big game in the preseason opener. They call him Ty in practice. All that and a lot more coming up at the half. And then in the second half, John, you and I'll talk a little bit about Greg Schiano and his philosophy. And if you look through the Buccaneer history of when they went after somebody as a head coach, they didn't get the first guy or the second guy, but they ended up getting a pretty good guy, whether it was Tony Dungy or John Gruden. And now the Blazer family hopes that Schiano is the guy.
Well, I'd say so. I mean, Tony Dungy, he turned this place around. I was here in the early 90s when it was not good. We were the yucks. We were the laughing stock of, we were Letterman jokes. Carson, I think it was back then. And, you know, he turned this place around. And John Gruden came and finished the deal. So sometimes the first choice isn't always the best, and they're hoping for that same kind of success with Greg Schiano.
Well, the word was out. Chip Kelly was all set to come from Oregon and decided to stay. Jerry Gray, you mentioned, was one of the candidates interviewed. Mark Dominic, general manager, and the Glazer family interviewed more than 15 candidates, and they brought in Schiano for a second interview. The Rams were targeting Greg Schiano before they decided on Jeff Fisher. But they said Schiano's name kept coming up, the way he coached his players, the discipline, the organization. He had been in the pro game before.
A big part of it, everybody talked about, when you got a Rutgers player, they were NFL ready. These guys knew how to play football, and you do that enough, all of a sudden you get on the radar of these NFL teams.
Greg Schiano has had to change the culture. You hear that a lot. Talk more about that in the second half as Barones boots it for Michael Smith. He squirts through, but is brought down at the 21.5-yard line, where the Bucs offense, just over the 3-minute mark, will take over. And here comes a flag, some pushing and shoving. Josh Freeman started for the Bucs after a turnover, threw a touchdown to Mike Williams, and that's been it for the Bucs scoring. Dan Orlovsky lost a fumble, suffered an interception, and the Titans have cashed in. Chris Johnson, a couple of touchdown runs and a couple of Rob Barones field goals, and that's where we stand at 20-7. Each team with 3 timeouts. And we will check on the flag.
Offsetting dead ball personal fouls on the return team and on the kicking team. First down.
What are you chuckling at? Let's take a look at the Ram Truck's scoring drive. There were no numbers given. That's a way to calm things, right? When you say he did it and he did it, let's just keep it at the 21-yard line. So the Barona's field goal at 48 yards after they chewed up 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Mike Munchak's team with the advantage.
Yeah, and you look at the score, 20-7 Tennessee. This game's being won and lost, as it so often is, up front. The Tennessee Titans, you know, we applauded the Buccaneers because I thought they controlled the line of scrimmage down in Miami. Tonight, Tennessee's controlling the line of scrimmage, and it's starting to pay dividends as Greg Schiano's giving an airful to Rennie Curran right now.
Rennie Curran, who was drafted by the Tennessee Titans, now part of the Bucs. LeGarrette Blount has to fight for a yard or two. That was something Greg Schiano told us today, that he expected a lot more physical, aggressive play from this Tennessee team.
Yeah, I think they got physically dominated last week by the Seattle Seahawks. And we look at the quarterback numbers, not good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They wanted to come and air out the ball a little. Josh Freeman, 4 of 10. Dan Orlovsky, 0 of 3 thus far. But it starts up front, and that affects quarterbacks, as we've been talking about all night. But not a good showing for the Buccaneer offense in terms of establishing a rhythm in the passing attack tonight.
As LeGarrette Blount carries, and really the quarterbacks for Tampa Bay, John, have not had a lot of time, whether it was Freeman having to run around or Orlovsky getting smothered from the minute he stepped back. We have a Tennessee timeout here as Blount is in pain.
Timeout, injured player.
If the injury took place before Tennessee called the timeout, then the Titans would not be charged, but we'll let the officials sort that out.
It's not something you want to see. LeGarrette Blount, a lot of people were critical of him last year for fumbling the ball, being loose with the ball, but this guy's a good football player that I think had been looking really good. You're going to see, that's not looking good on that left knee there. And you hope for LeGarrette Blount's sake and for the Buccaneers that he's all right, but that looked like a bad blow to that knee. Got stuck in the turf there.
Extra thigh pads required by the league this year, improved, but he's in pain.
Thigh pad doesn't help that, and you just hope that that leg's intact. I mean, so often you see that, and it's not good results, but you hope that LeGarrette Blount is indeed okay.
There is Moses Madu out as well with Todd Torricelli, the trainer, the medical staff. Blount actually embracing the challenge from Greg Schiano, with Doug Martin coming to try and nail down that starting running back job. Let's hope he's able to get up and get over to the sideline.
It's a good sign. He's putting pressure on it.
Blount, originally a Tennessee Titan. The Bucs claimed him on waivers and had a splash with his 1,000-yard season for Tampa Bay.
Watch this, Chris. Late in the run, that left leg in the ground. They go low, as they so often do with those bigger
Timeout. Tennessee,
running backs.
The first charge timeout of the half. 30-second timeout.
So there was a timeout for Tennessee charge. They have 2 remaining. Bucs have all 3, despite the injury to LeGarrette Blount. Bucs facing a 3rd and 5. And when we spoke to the staff today, John, they were debating not only the battle for starting running back. Greg Schiano said, hey, the 3rd running back is key. Moses Madu, Michael Smith in the mix there as well. They may move up depending upon the health of LeGarrette Blount.
And I think they like both those guys. I think right now an advantage to Michael Smith because he brings that element of the return game. We saw the big return last week and that flat-out speed. That's another element, but Moses Madu is a guy that they like, and we know from doing these preseason games has shown well.
Checking the left leg knee area of Blount. We have Dave Worth down on the sideline, who will update when we get an update from the Buccaneers. That was one of the things they talked about through training camp of the first preseason game, relatively serious injury-free, as Madu is the running back on 3rd and 5. Orlowski goes down. And here comes a flag after Dawson got the sack. It's Tennessee defense.
Holding, 68 offense, 10-yard penalty, repeat third down.
No, Tennessee will decline that. They didn't ask him.
You would think they would decline, so that would be fourth down. The head coach saying
penalty will be declined, fourth down.
But again, Tampa getting whooped up front. I mean, that's just pressure in the face of Orlowski. No one separating at the wide receiver position. No option for Dan Orlowski. Right now, this game continues to be won up front by the Tennessee Titans.
Bucs getting beat physically and on the scoreboard at the moment, forced to a punt.
And Greg Schiano's telling the official to wind the clock because he's going to let it go down to 2-minute warning. And these are some of the problems the replacement officials are having. The logistics of the game done differently in college, and you can't expect anything different. They've never done it here in the NFL, and it's showing itself. I think it's an embarrassment to the league, really, and it's not on these guys. It's the fact that these guys have never been here. You look at rookie players, they struggle, and they struggle for a reason. Bad situation. You better get it fixed.
2-minute warning.
We've reached the 2-minute warning. The Bucs will be punting. It's a 20-7 Titan lead. Back in 2005, or I should say 2008, the first-round draft pick for the Bucs, who did get a start, played a little bit in this game, and the total yards so far. Look at that.
It's a whooping right now. It really is. It's reflected in the score, and it could be worse. You'd like to see them right now. You got guys fighting for jobs. Go fight for it. Great situation football here. You get an opportunity at a 2-minute drill.
And 90 players on this roster. It'll be cut to 75 after the third preseason game, which is next Friday night here against New England. So there are guys that they may not get many opportunities to prove whether they should be on the roster.
And you want to make a football roster, if you're a bottom of the roster guy, this is where you make it. Special teams. These guys right here, best way to make a team if you're at the bottom of the roster is on special teams.
And John LeGarrette Blount is limping toward the locker room as Eric Guthrie on fourth down punts for Darius Reynaud, and it bounces at the 42 and rolls inside the 41-yard line of Tennessee. Let's check in on the field with Dave Worth.
Yeah, okay, LeGarrette Blount just went down to the other end of the locker room. I think that's where the x-ray rooms are. The trainers were working on the top and the inside of his left leg, applying pressure, trying to find out exactly what the problem was. You saw LeGarrette leave under his own power, not putting a whole lot of pressure on there or a whole lot of weight on his leg. All of his teammates came over to give him a pat on the back. Everyone is hoping for the best, but no one knows exactly what it is right now, and that's not a good sign, unfortunately. Chris?
Thanks, Dave. And something until there are x-rays, the Bucs may not know till well after the game. Meanwhile, Matt Hasselbeck is in at quarterback for the Titans. Pass is incomplete. The coverage pretty good by Anthony Gator. And here comes the flag. Maybe the coverage was too good.
That was better defense. You know, they got some pressure. I think a good play by Gator. We'll see the replay as to whether he got there early.
Pass interference, defense number 26, spot foul, automatic first down.
You know, watch Gator on the crossing route. I think that's a good play. You're allowed to keep that left arm on the back unless you pull and tug. He didn't pull and tug, and he got that arm out there. I always tend to think on the side of the defensive back, but I think that's a good play by Anthony Gator. I wouldn't worry about it.
I understand. Damian Williams, starting receiver out there for Hasselbeck on first down. Matt's going to run, pointing, getting out of bounds. The longtime Seattle Seahawk. 14 years in the league, 3 Pro Bowls, a Super Bowl, and last year led Tennessee to 9 wins and put up very good numbers.
You know, and who knows, there's still a lot of football to be played in this preseason, but if Locker ends up being the starter, what a luxury for the Tennessee Titans to have a guy like Matthew Hasselbeck. People forget this guy was, as much as we talk about Locker being an athlete, this guy was a tremendous athlete at the quarterback position and a very accomplished quarterback. What a luxury for the Tennessee Titans to have both these guys on the roster.
Inside handoff to Javon Ringer. Working near the first down marker. They do have 2 timeouts, the Titans do, as he does get the first down. So Hasselbeck, good chance for him, not that he would need the two-minute offense.
Hey, but like I said, everybody needs these reps and great situational football. Coaches love this in the preseason. They want to see their teams in 2-minute, no-huddle situations.
Quick pass, complete, and slipping out of a tackle is Taylor Thompson, and then going down at the 40. One of the Titan reserve tight ends. And
timeout, Tennessee.
Titans use their second timeout. I think Hasselbeck was looking like, if you're not going to get more than that, get out of bounds. You're chewing up the clock. They'll have 1 remaining. You know, this was a Tennessee team. We said Hasselbeck last year kept the Titans in the hunt his first year in Tennessee with 9 wins. He had 18 touchdowns, 3,600 yards, and they were knocking on the door with the playoffs. But the owner here, remember in the offseason, before Peyton Manning signed in Denver, Bud Adams said, go out and get Peyton Manning.
Well, they tried to give him the franchise. I mean, they were going to pay him whatever. Talk of even ownership later on and position in the front office later on. I mean, they put the full court press. And I think it really says something for Denver and the job they did, because Peyton Manning, obviously with the connection to Tennessee, having gone to school there, so many reasons it sounded right. But, you know, still a strength for them at the quarterback position with both Hasselbeck and Locker. But number 18 would have looked good in blue.
Peyton Manning, exciting people in Denver. But here are 2 pretty good quarterbacks. We saw Jake Locker and Matt Hasselbeck, and I say pretty good. What an accomplished career Hasselbeck has had and still has going this season. From the 40 on second down. Pressure is coming right up the middle. You could see Dakota Watson. You talked about it earlier, and he broke free.
Well, this guy, you know, he makes plays, and I think you can have all your guys, and maybe he's too small, maybe he's whatever, but when you continue to make plays, you deserve to be on the field. Dakota Watson runs right through the offensive lineman's intended block, and he delivers on a sack. It's a player that I think we'll see more of from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because as we've mentioned, they're looking for pass rush, and this guy, I think, provides it for them.
An 11-yard loss. Dakota Watson getting Hasselbeck, and Tennessee uses its last timeout with 49 seconds to go before halftime and out of field goal range.
Dakota Watson in his 3rd year out of Florida State, not a high draft choice, but sometimes you find guys like this and you wonder how he wasn't a higher draft choice, because since he's been here, he's produced and he's made plays for this Buccaneer defense.
Some of the reserves on that defense out there: Adam Hayward, George Johnson up front, and there is Dakota Watson. From their own 49, it's 3rd down. Hasselbeck maybe trying to get them in range of their kicker, Rob Baronis, who made a 48-yarder earlier. Quick throw. Ringer sprinting inside the 40 of Tampa Bay. Clock continuing to run. Tennessee out of timeouts.
Really good open field tackle by Ahmad Black, but they're going to bring Baronis out.
On a 4th down. Try a field goal of 56 yards.
56 yards.
And the Bucs are going to use a timeout.
Timeout, Tampa Bay.
8 seconds remaining.
30-second timeout.
Career long for Baronis. He has made 50-plus rather consistently. But 56 in a preseason game, a bit unusual.
But a good time to test your kicker out. I mean, you want to go out there and see, all right, what's he capable of doing at this stage in his career? Send him out there. I like it from Mike Munchak.
Let's check in with Dave Worth, see what he has coming up for you at halftime. Dave?
Yeah, Chris, we've got some highlights for you and stats from the first half. Hopefully an update on LeGarrette Blount as well. And a look at one of the receivers fighting for a spot on the roster, Tyquan Underwood, who maybe at this point in his career is best known for almost making it to the Super Bowl. Good interview with Taekwon coming up at halftime, guys.
Thanks, Dave. Rob Barones' career high, 60 yards. 63, the NFL record. This would be 56. He's got the leg to do it. The kick. Short. 3 seconds remaining here in the half.
Now, if I'm Greg Schiano, he's talking to Mike Sullivan, the new offensive coordinator right here. Again, you're trying to practice things. I'd try the Hail Mary right now. Why not? You know, you worry possibly about hurting players or whatnot, but give it a go. You're going to need this at some point during the season. I think you give it a go.
There's Todd Torricelli talking to Coach Schiano, and no doubt he's updating him on the status of LeGarrette Blount or what kind of tests are going to be run. In case you tuned in a little bit late, he was injured and taken to the locker room away from the field. Looks like this will just be a...
Instead, they're going to practice the kneel down.
Well, that's something to practice if you have big leads at the end of a game, and that is the end of the first half. The Titans, who trailed 7-0, now lead 20-7. Let's check in with Dave Worth.
All right, we got the coach here. Can you give us any kind of update at all about LeGarrette Blount?
Not right now. I have no idea. I haven't talked to the doctors yet.
Taken in for x-rays?
He's taken in. I don't know what for.
Okay. Offensively, were you trying to throw the ball a little bit more tonight? A little more emphasis on the pass?
Yeah, there was. I don't think we protected it very well. We got to see what the problems were. Plus, they did a good job. I mean, give them some credit.
Defensively, did you see improvement in your tackling?
Out of some guys, and then other guys, no. You know, and some of the misfits, but it really is a half a missed opportunity. We have some chances to make some plays that aren't tough plays, and we didn't make them.
Second half, I know you're going to still go for second and third teamers, but you need improvement somewhere.
Well, we just need to play our brand of football and keep doing it. I mean, it's a process, and we just got to keep after it.
Thank you very much, Coach. I appreciate it. All right, there you go. Greg Schiano, not a real happy guy with that first half, but a second half to go. We've got halftime coming up for you from Raymond James Stadium. Chris, let's send it back up to you.
Well, the first team defense did a pretty good job. I think that's what Coach Schiano was talking about, John. Normally, you'd make some halftime adjustments with your starters, but here, what do you think Schiano is doing in terms of reserves given the game situation?
Well, I think a really clear message, and I bet he gives it to them downstairs in the locker room because they're getting beat up front. And that's, you know, head coaches don't like that. He's going to give it to them and say, let's start winning the line of scrimmage.
Touchdown pass, Josh Freeman to Mike Williams is all that Tampa Bay has. A couple of touchdown runs from Chris Johnson. And at the half, the Titans lead the Buccaneers 20-7.
On a warm Friday night in Tampa, the Titans lead the Buccaneers 20-7 at halftime. We are still awaiting some official word about the health of LeGarrette Blount. He left late in the first half with that knee injury. We'll get that to you as soon as we can. Right now, back upstairs to Chris Myers and John Lynch. Gentlemen.
Thanks. Getting ready for the second half. So what should we look for? I know this is less about the score and more about evaluation. So let's talk about either some players or what kind of evaluating Greg Schiano will have to do.
Yeah, well, like I said prior, I promise you he gave it to both the offense and defensive line about controlling this line of scrimmage. So you want to see that. You want to see guys competing for jobs. I'll tell you two guys who stood out to me competing for jobs. Doug Martin looked really good in that first half, and Dakota Watson, two standout players, one on the offense, one on the defense, but overall not a real good half for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's being nice. And
we have some backup positions being battled for, whether it's tight end on offense, backup safety. Ahmad Black with the first half interception all over the field, had a penalty called, but certainly showed a guy who was fighting hard.
Yeah, and he played well, and that's what, like I said earlier, that's what he's done at Lakeland High School at the University of Florida. He's made a lot of plays in his career, and showing that he can do it in the NFL as well.
Now let's check in back on the field. Dave has an update on LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, well, we just saw LeGarrette Blount come out on the field. He is limping. We got a shot of him right here. He just went up to Greg Schiano and explained how he got hit. He got hit on the outside of his left knee, but the good sign was I don't see any ice on that knee. Nothing's taped up. He came out and walked out. He is limping, and I'm sure he won't return to action. But other than that, it doesn't look like a serious injury. I could be wrong on that, but from first glance, it does look positive, guys. I hope it's true.
Yeah, I'll leave it to the doctors. You know, you never want to try to diagnose these things, but it's always a good sign when he's out walking. If he's got a torn ACL or not, he's not going to be like, he'll be out on crutches and whatnot. So this is a very positive sign. LeGarrette Blount, I think, you know, there's an emphasis on running the football, and I keep talking about Doug Martin, but there's room for both of these guys. In fact, you need a couple of guys in today's NFL at the running back position.
Greg Schiano talked about feeling like an accountant after the first preseason game, keeping track of plays and the distribution of numbers on certain players. And in the first preseason game, both Doug Martin and LeGarrette Blount each carried exactly 7 times on the ground. Obviously, Doug Martin getting some work with the injury to LeGarrette Blount. But in the second half, we'll probably see more of Moses Madu and Michael Smith in the backfield, the return specialist, who averaged sharing time in his senior year at Utah State. He averaged over 7 yards a carry.
He's got some explosion, and that's what they've added to this offense. I think that's what makes you think that they can have some explosive nature to their offense. But if you aren't doing it up front, that doesn't matter.
Darius Reynaud on the return. And the special teams giving up another big play for the Bucs. The Titans all the way out near the 39-yard line before Ahmad Black made the play.
And Reynaud continues to flash for the Tennessee Titans. This is a guy who had a strong game last week, broke the big run earlier. Now with the return, this guy's making a strong bid to make this team. And if you're on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'll tell you one area. I talked about the importance of special teams for the back half of the roster. Even more so with the Bucs, because Bobby Ligashevsky's the special teams coordinator, but you know who coaches them as much as anyone is Greg Schiano. He's very involved with the special teams.
He was not very happy with what was going on the field or the scoreboard at the end of the first half. Pass is complete, just short of the 45-yard line. Mark Mariani, return specialist and backup receiver behind Nate Washington and Lavelle Hawkins. Jake Locker started, suffered an interception, but then behind Chris Johnson and the Tennessee defense built a lead for the Titans. Matt Hasselbeck coming on in reserve. Jamie Harper in the backfield, who gets the carry and has a first down in Buccaneer territory. You've been on it all night, John, the line of scrimmage, and the Buccaneers out getting pushed around.
Yeah, and you know, there's some things that are to be expected. They've got new schemes on both offense and defense. So right there, some run fit issues. But the controlling of the line of scrimmage, that goes to effort. It goes to pad level. Greg Schiano talked to us today. He said, I want to see better pad level. He's not going to be happy because they've been getting pushed around.
Fresh set of downs for Hasselbeck and the Titans with a 20-7 third quarter lead. Harper, plenty of room inside the 40 down to the 36-yard line before Larry Asante comes up, who was the leading tackler last week for the Bucs, made the stop. A 12-yard gain. He's your safety.
Well, just watch this line of scrimmage. Get some penetration, but a big gap in that Buccaneer defense. People not where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. And Tennessee Titans really starting to impose their will on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
This is Jamie Harper again. Jamie Harper! Here comes a flag, and he goes down inside the 5-yard line as he goes out of bounds. Harper from Clemson, a 4th-round draft pick in his second year. It was a 33-yard run pending the flag.
Holding, 83 offense, 10-yard penalty, first down.
That's on Mark Mariani, the receiver.
But again, on that play, they're lucky with the penalty, but poor run fits and then shoddy tackling that led to another breakaway run for the Titans.
Tennessee pounding the ball, more than a 100-yard advantage on the ground. Ball at the 26 of Tampa Bay. Renaud is in the backfield. Hasselbeck, incomplete. Tried to work a little dump off there. Keith Tandy, one of those rookies from West Virginia, from his safety spot.
And you had the perfect defense dialed up. They're going for the bootleg. You run the ball so effectively, but nothing better in the bootleg. Keith Tandy on his assignment, getting to the uphill shoulder of the quarterback and forces the throw away for Matthew Hasselbeck.
On second down. This is Darius Renaud, and it'll bring up a third down for the Titans. Rob Baronis, 2 out of 3 in the field goal department, made a 48-yarder, missed a 56-yarder. Bucs have not had a field goal try. In fact, the only scoring opportunity they cashed in on down around the goal line.
You want to look at NFL football. Look, watch this fullback, Quinn Johnson. And it's Najee Good, the rookie. That's the NFL. It's a violent, collision-based sport, and they can try to make it safer. It always will be.
Third down, need to get to the 16 for a first. He flips it out. Jamie Harper has it and pushes forward near the first down marker. We've seen Chris Johnson, Javon Ringer, Darius Renaud, and now Jamie Harper in the backfield for Tennessee, and it will bring up fourth down.
Mike Munchak and Matthew Hasselbeck not hesitating. They leave the offense out there to go for it on fourth down.
And a veteran like Hasselbeck with a quick handoff. I don't know. Pretty good work up front from the Bucs.
Absolutely. Got some penetration. Nice finish, capping it off by Adam Hayward. Looks like they'll get off the field.
Jamie Harper carried. First down, Buccaneers. The defense with a fourth down stop. Preseason or not, you can always appreciate a momentum shift. And the Buccaneers will take over on offense here, trailing the Titans in the third, 20-7. Malcolm, Joel, Brian, Ed, and Darcy, the Glazer family, active in the community and through the Glazer Family Foundation, doing a lot of good. They also have sponsored the Glazer Children's Museum here in Tampa, a wonderful place with activities for children, doing a lot of good. And the Buccaneers defense doing some good, setting up the offense with its first possession here in the second half. Moses Madu, the running back. And he carries. Moses Madu across the 25-yard line. Played all 4 years at Oklahoma. You saw him last year with the Bucs.
This is a guy we talked about in the first half. He always seems to come out and make plays, particularly in the preseason. He plays like a guy fighting for a roster spot, and you love to see that from a young guy who really is doing just exactly that.
A 9-yard pickup. So second down 1. Battling for that third back behind Blunt and Martin, along with Michael Smith. Madu. Six feet, just about 195 pounds, and he did get the first down. We got word that Jeff Demps from Florida, the Olympic medalist, we always appreciate what our athletes do for our country in the Olympics, signing with the New England Patriots. The Bucs were in the mix on that deal.
That, you know, that goes back to the old deal. You can't teach speed, and speed kills, and all those sayings in the NFL that hold so true. It's something when you have it on your team, everyone covets it. Here's a guy who didn't even come to a camp, but there were about 4 teams very interested in getting him.
A tough hit on Madu by Zach Brown from his linebacker spot. Of course, the Bucs with speed from Michael Smith in the return game and possibly as a backup running back, the rookie from Utah State. On the loss, it'll be 2nd and 11.
And whether it's your first team, your second team, you just want to see crisp execution. You're going to put players, remember you're evaluating, but you still want to see crisp execution, and we haven't seen it from this Buccaneer offense yet today.
Passing situation for Dan Orlovsky. He has time. Madu gets across the 30-yard line. Again, he was a slot receiver his junior year in Oklahoma, so capable catching the football, but there wasn't much downfield. It'll be third down.
Yeah, and Orlovsky did what you have to. Right now the Titans are saying you're not going to throw the ball downfield, and so what do you have to do? You have to be patient, deliver an accurate ball, and you get half of it back. You put yourself in a manageable third down at 3rd and 5. Good job by Dan Orlovsky taking what they give you. Our quarterback Brad Johnson his old saying was, you can't go broke taking a profit.
Brad Johnson, who of course was the quarterback when the Buccaneers, John Lynch and company, captured the Super Bowl title, beating the Raiders. On 3rd down. Incomplete. Robert Hughes, the fullback, was the intended target, but Orlovsky knocked down at the 20.
Really had a nice play, a little slip screen, trying to get Hughes out, but so much pressure on Orlovsky, they couldn't execute it.
1 out of 5 so far for Orlovsky. A different deal from the first preseason game when he came in relief against Miami and was 8 out of 8.
Greg Schiano keeps writing things down. They're going to have a lot to work on when they go back to work next week.
Next Friday night, the Patriots are here. Tom Brady and company. Goes out of bounds at just inside the 30-yard line of Tennessee. Eric Guthrie giving Michael Kanan a break. The Titans have the 20-7 lead, and they have the football here in the 3rd quarter. Mark Barron looks on with a keep to lead. They both saw their first action of the preseason here in the opening quarter, as the Titans will start at the 29-yard line.
Got a little glimpse of Mark Barron going up against one of the better backs in the league in Chris Johnson. Little tackle there, nice pass defense by Mark Barron, but that's why I think he can be so valuable. What you ask of safeties these days is to do a little bit of everything. Cover receivers, come down, play linebacker, at other times blitz. And I think he's got that kind of explosiveness. He's a game-changing player that I think is going to translate well to the NFL.
Here's Darius Reynaud spinning, going down. Rusty Smith is in at quarterback, following Matt Hasselbeck and Jake Locker. Rusty from Florida Atlantic. Let's go back to Mark Barron, though, a 3-time All-SEC. You were doing some scouting on your own, as you often do, from your position of when you played, and you had written up a nice report long before the Bucs even drafted him.
I was asked by a team to study the safeties, and really wasn't a good class. And I'm going through all these guys going, come on. And you know, the first line of my report on Mark Barron, now that's what I'm talking about.
I saw that on your notes.
Yeah, the second line, this is a game-changing player, and that's really what he was at Alabama.
Harper carries for Tennessee.
And you love that pedigree of Alabama for a couple of reasons. Number one, they won a lot of football games because of really good players like Mark Barron. But the other thing is they're coached by Nick Saban, who coached in the NFL, who runs a pro-style defense. Mark Barron's going to be doing the same things here he was asked to do in college. And so you can look at the film and say, okay, this will translate. Other times you're kind of shooting in the dark because you don't know. They didn't do anything that they will be doing in the NFL. At Alabama, that's not a question.
Barron, a 2-time captain there. One of a dozen players in the last 2 years that the Bucs have drafted that were captains on their college teams. On 3rd and 3, Rusty Smith complete for a first down at the 45. Mark Mariani with the catch falling forward.
You know, I think Barron's been slowed a little bit. He had a hamstring early in the offseason into camp, and then of late has been battling a little toe injury that sounds like, I say a little toe injury, but a toe injury to a defensive back can be devastating. Talking to Rondé Barber, that slowed him down, but he thinks the kid's going to be special as well.
On first down, this is Jamie Harper. Tough tackle there, and well done. It's kept short of the 45. Leonard Johnson, the rookie free agent from Iowa State from Largo High School. Number 29, he grew up idolizing Rondé Barber. Now he's in the same secondary with him, or at least on the same sideline.
That's a good play. I mean, the local boy wants to make the team, keep making plays like that. He's a guy who people that have been out at practice said has shown up, and this is a great opportunity. You're playing, and this is an NFL football game, and you're putting this film out for the Bucs and everybody else in the league saying, hey, I belong in this league.
Quick pass to Harper, and set up nicely by the Titans. Inside Tampa Bay territory before Keith Tandy brings him down at the 38-yard line.
There's too much open area in this defense right now. Whether it's execution breakdowns, this is a screen pass. You invite the rush up, and then you slip it. But where are the linebackers? You got to come. Once you diagnose screen, you got to come and get it. And you got to have pursuit to the football. Too many open, easy yards for the Tennessee Titans tonight.
Jamie Harper catching his breath. Third-string quarterback in for the Titans. Darius Renaud the back. Reserves in for the Bucs on defense. This is Renaud. He breaks through and gets inside the 30-yard line. Looked like Johnson had something going over there, but not enough to make the stop on Darius Renaud. The backup safety spot, Ahmad Black, who had the interception earlier, Keith Tandy, Cody Grimm, Larry Asante. There's too many guys for few jobs.
And they're battling, and Ahmad Black kind of stated his case with the nice interception that led to the only points that the Buccaneers have tonight. Cody Grimm's a guy that I think could play football in this league. He showed it last year when he was healthy. He's an instinctive guy, maybe not the fastest guy in the world, but instinctive and always around the football.
Here's Renaud again, straight up the gut for a first down to the 25-yard line. Jacob Cutrera, former LSU Tiger backup linebacker on the stop. James Rogers is in the secondary, recently picked up prior to last week's game. Myron Lewis no longer in the game, but the former Vanderbilt star, third-round draft pick who was oft injured, did not have a great game against the Dolphins and is in trouble making this roster. Pending the E.J. Biggers broken bone at his foot, who has been out, not playing tonight. No surgery, no long-term injury. At least that's the way the Bucs view it at the moment, as Renaud goes in the air and down to the 10-yard line before Larry Asante keeps him from getting into the end zone.
You talk football terms, and you so often hear about setting an edge, putting an edge on the defense. Watch it right here. 37 Tandy, you've got to put an edge on that defense, turn it back to all your teammates. Keith Tandy instead doesn't. You got open field for Renaud, who takes advantage of it. Little things that Greg Schiano's preaches so often. He's a big believer in the little things, and when you don't do the little things, that happens. 16 first downs for the Titans, 4 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Titans have dominated this football game after trailing 7-0 as Jamie Harper gets down to the 5-yard line. Doesn't seem to matter who's carrying the football. They're getting positive yardage.
And look, we all know the numbers dictate that you better be able to throw the football in the NFL to win football games, particularly in the playoffs. But good old-fashioned running it down someone's throat, we're seeing it right now. They've imposed their will, and now they're breaking the will of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you do that to someone over and over, the tackling becomes a little shoddy. The line of scrimmage starts moving. It's a vicious cycle, and nothing better for an offense, no better feeling than just taking it to a defense, running the football right down their throat.
Something the Bucs did last week. Touchdown, Tennessee, as Rusty Smith, he didn't hang on. Taylor Thompson had it and couldn't hold it, but he was open.
And that's why you always finish, though. You know, that's why they talk and preach finish so much, because you never know. You keep playing. Asante and Tandy close on Thompson. Big open hole. But you got to bring it down through the process of the catch. If you go to the ground in the NFL these days, you better bring that ball home for mama, because otherwise it's not a touchdown.
So a third down, the Buck defense stopped Tennessee on a fourth down in this quarter. Here's Rusty Smith going back of the end zone, incomplete. Tandy was back there covering. Keith Tandy, a captain on the West Virginia team, staying with Cameron Graham, one of the reserve tight ends. Tandy, a roommate of Najee Good from West Virginia. And a team that, as Greg Schiano said at Rutgers, he couldn't beat West Virginia when he ran into him head-to-head.
You tend to bring those guys on your team. If you can't beat them, join them, right?
So now a 4th down field goal try of 23 yards for Rob Baronis to try and increase the Tennessee lead with 1:55 to go here in the 3rd. He's 3 out of 4 tonight. And it's now a 23-7 Titan advantage. After Josh Freeman, it's been Dan Orlovsky. But Mike Munchak's team has done the job here in the 3rd quarter. Titans with a 23-7 advantage. Celebrate Rondé Barber's 200th consecutive start at the 2012 Buccaneers home opener against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, September 9th. Tickets are on sale right now. You go to Buccaneers.com. And remember, for that game, 50% off on all concessions except those dealing with alcohol. And free parking in select areas. The Ram truck scoring drive. Another field goal from Rob Baronis. And it's a 23-7 lead. Michael Smith trying to get the Bucs going from the goal line. Straight ahead, up across the 24, just short of the 25-yard line. Dan Orlovsky will try and rally the offense, and we'll have more from Tampa Bay and Raymond James in just a moment. And we're glad you're watching the Buccaneers television network. There's the radio network. It is 24th season. Gene Deckerhoff, touchdown Tampa Bay. Can hear him holler.
Calls. My favorite of all time. I'll start at the gun.
And part of that crew with TJ Reeves on the field. Of course, Dave Moore, one of your former teammates. Jeff Ryan, the producer.
I know Dave Moore. Neither of those guys are Dave Moore. I think Dave's over there.
Well, you know, sometimes Gene can handle everything on his own, as you know. Always enthusiastic and entertaining, and we're glad he's continuing to call the Bucs on the radio network as Orlovsky goes down. Ball comes out, but the Bucs have it.
Look at Orlovsky there. You don't like the way he went down on that knee, and you hope for your number 2 quarterback that he gets up as well. But taking too many hits. But I think that one's on him. You bring some blitzes, it's on the quarterback to get rid of the ball. That one was not protected, and Orlovsky needed to get rid of that football.
It has been a disastrous night for him. Losing a fumble, a couple of sacks, the 3rd one there, and suffering an interception. And the Bucs offense all the way around. The only touchdown came with a very short field after the Ahmad Black interception. They only had to go 2 yards. Michael Smith in the backfield. A rookie from Utah State. It'll be 3rd down.
Yeah, you can't sugarcoat it. As encouraging as last week 1 in Miami was for this offense and the potential you saw tonight, you're not seeing that. And you can have bad nights, but you look at -2 passing yards on the night. That's not good.
That is not good. Even I could figure that out when I see a -2. And not a good situation for Orlovsky here, the way this Tennessee defense has moved in on Greg Schiano's team on 3rd and long. You better be careful. Robert Hughes is the back. And Orlovsky goes down. 4th sack of the night by the Tennessee defense.
And you watch this, Bradley South just getting whooped up front. 75, Quinta Dawson going right through Sal on the way to the quarterback. It's what you love to see from defensive linemen. Not good protection. I've hit the theme all night. You know, sometimes you see -2 passing yards and you look to the quarterback, but they certainly aren't getting any help up front.
That's the end of the 3rd quarter. Buccaneers facing a 4th down. Forced to punt from their own end zone. And on the Ram truck scoreboard, it's the Titans leading the Bucs 23-7. Frustrating night for the Bucs and their fans here. Anxious and excited about what they saw from Greg Schiano and this team in the preseason opener on the road south of here, down in Miami at the Dade, Broward border, but rough night tonight all the way around.
That's Mike Sullivan that was talking with the quarterbacks there, and now they're going to give Brett Ratliff his turn and said, you know, go out there, let's see what you can do. But until the protection and the line of scrimmage improves up front, those guys aren't going to have much success.
Even on special teams, as DJ Woods back to return the punt of Guthrie. From the 40 of Tennessee, here comes a flag. He's trying to get to midfield, is dragged down short. 2 flags back down at the Tennessee 40. Marquise Wheaton on the special teams play for Tampa Bay. 8th punt of the game for the Bucs. Connor Barth has yet to get any work this preseason. Kanan a little bit kicking off at some punts, and Guthrie, Kai Forbath, who made 2 kicks in the preseason opener for the Bucs. No opportunities tonight.
Blocking the back, number 16 on the return team. That penalty be refused. Blocking the back, number 50 on the return team. That will be enforced. 10 yards, first down.
2 different penalties called. Mike Munchak, the Hall of Fame player, as a head coach, had us wondering how often you see that one. Can you name another Hall of Fame player who was recently a head coach? We'll have that coming up.
Okay, we are getting closer here.
Titans in control of this one, 23-7 with a first down from the 30. Rusty Smith remains the quarterback. Darius Reynaud, another carry. He's run well just across the 30. The Hall of Fame player, you came up with one, John, go ahead.
I did, Forrest Gregg.
Who later became a head coach. I thought of Mike Ditka, Hall of Famer as a tight end, of course a head coach, and we had some help from Rick Odioso and James Petralka here in the booth. Joe Schmidt, you go back, Norm Van Brocklin, Raymond Berry, another one. But it's something you just don't see very often today. And he's done a nice job, 9 wins last year. With Jake Locker getting the start tonight, will he be the starting quarterback opening day when the Titans play the Patriots to start the regular season? Here's a whistle and a flag.
Speaking of the Patriots, they come to town next week, and the Bucs are going to have
offense, number 44, 5-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
You hear the false start, but they're going to have some great work against really the standard in the last decade in the NFL. Bill Belichick bringing his team down. They're going to get 2 days worth of practices, and they need them right now. This has not been a good showing. Sometimes you have bad games, but it's kind of the way they've had it today, kind of being dominated up front. That won't bode well with Greg Schiano. He won't like that, and these guys will be working next week, I promise you.
Herb Donaldson from Western Illinois, free agent in the backfield for Rusty Smith, whose pass is complete up at the 35, and still on his feet and moving is Michael Preston. Greg Schiano played college football at Bucknell. Did not play in the NFL. Mike Williams played his college ball at Syracuse, where Greg Schiano coached against him, and he's down on the field with our Dave Worth. Dave?
All right, Chris, yeah, we got Mike Williams here. You had the highlight in the first half. Nice touchdown. Describe the play for us.
Well, it was just a simple fade call to me, and Josh came out the huddle, and he told me if I got one-on-one, he's going to throw it. And I told him I'm his man, and he threw it.
Yeah, one-on-one coverage is what you're looking for.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I just look for the ball to be in the air. I feel I can make a play with the ball in the air.
Other than that, it's been a rough night for this team, struggling both defense and offense. Have you been trying different things on offense tonight?
Oh, yeah. On offense, we've been getting a lot of zone. Usually against the zone, you run the ball a lot, but we're trying to get some of our plays and get in the rhythm. So we're trying to run against the zone right now. So, but we know we got to get in the film room and get to practice and get better next week.
What have been the differences between this week and last week?
I just say, like I said, a lot of zone. Trying to get a couple more of our plays in, trying to run against a zone, and right now we just need to get in the film room.
Greg Schiano was not real happy, obviously, after that first half. What was he like in the locker room?
Well, basically he said we got to fight. It's still a game. It's still a scoreboard. No matter if it's the preseason or not, we still trying to win this game. We got to come out and fight, and that's what he said to us, and we trying to do that. And hopefully we can come back and win this game.
Is your buddy LeGarrette okay?
Well, I really don't know right now, but he's a trooper, man. So to me, he's okay.
All right, Mike Williams, thanks very much. Appreciate it. All right, there you go. Chris, back upstairs.
Thanks, Dave. And Mike Williams, we always appreciate when the players, regardless of the score of the situation, take a few moments to talk with us. Fans appreciate that during the course of the game as this punt rolls out of bounds just across the 30-yard line where the Buccaneer offense will have an opportunity. As you heard Mike tell Dave, the coach said at halftime, hey, you got to fight. There's still a scoreboard here. We're in the fourth quarter. Titans lead it. Check out WTSP.com with news stories, video highlights, behind the scenes with Dave Worth. Check out WTSP.com under the sports tab. Just click Tampa Bay Buccaneers from your preseason home of the Bucs 10 News and get more on not only this game, the aftermath, the injury to LeGarrette Blount. As Brett Ratliff comes in at quarterback, he came in late in the game last week against Miami in the preseason opener, and hands to Madu, who has nowhere to go. Brett Ratliff was in the Titans camp last year. He's also been with the Jets in Cleveland, a free agent quarterback who played his college ball at Utah.
Very few teams carrying 3 quarterbacks these days in the NFL. Oftentimes, someone will get put on the practice squad so they have an emergency guy if they need it. But oftentimes these days, teams going with just 2 quarterbacks. They're rolling the dice a little bit with that.
Rudy Carpenter was the star of the preseason last year for the Bucs in that reserve role. Josh Johnson out in San Francisco with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith. Ratliff throws and completes. Just across the 30, spinning in the air, is Drake Dunsmore. One of the 7th round draft choices from the tight end position at Northwestern. Was not involved in much of a passing offense, but they like his skill set.
We just saw a little bit of, speaking of Kaepernick out there in San Francisco, a little bit of the spread option, the college offense that's making its way or has made its way to the NFL. We see it with Tim Tebow, all these guys. A little spread option puts the defense in a tough bind. But again, good play. The Titans have played impressive football today.
On 3rd down, Madu. A nifty run across the 40, but short. At least where they spot this of the 1st down. Is this a time to go for it? No, says Greg Schiano. Josh Freeman in the bigger picture, John. Mark Dominic, the general manager, saying, as you've indicated, we'll go out, we'll get you the #1 receiver in Vincent Jackson, the big offensive guard in Carl Nix, and a veteran tight end in Dallas Clark. You got to prove to us you're a franchise quarterback, or further prove.
Further prove, and I think come back from a rough year that Josh Freeman would be the first to admit it wasn't a year up to his standards.
Woods on the return. DJ goes down the sidelines, flipped out of bounds around the 35, marked short of that by the official.
But I think Josh Freeman can have that bounce back year. They didn't show it tonight. A lot of talent on this offense, but they got to start putting it in production. We'll see next week against the Patriots.
Operations Manager Lee Griffin on the Buccaneers television network. It's Gerald McCoy, who, if he stays healthy, Greg Schiano counting on him big with Claiborne up front.
And they should. I mean, this guy's a difference maker when he's out there. He's looked good in the first 2 games. Let's just keep him healthy, I think, is the mindset of this staff. But he needs to become a difference maker as high as he was drafted, and they need him desperately.
Delayed blitz and an incomplete pass. 3rd overall pick out of Oklahoma. Unfair to compare him to an Ndamukong Suh?
I don't think unfair. You know, I think Ndamukong Suh's a little bit of a different player that relies a little bit more on brute strength. McCoy's a penetrating, disruptive player that I think this scheme bodes well. They're moving around a lot. You know, again, my only concern is inside, who else do you have? You got the likes of Roy Miller, who's a good player, but not necessarily one that's going to draw double teams. Gerald McCoy is going to see a lot of double teams. We'll see how he handles it throughout the course of this year.
Donaldson is met hard and brought down right away. George Johnson from Rutgers helping to put the stop on Jamie Harper, bringing up a third down. Yeah, Adrian Claiborne, who you talked about as well, defensive end, he's kind of the quiet type, whereas Gerald McCoy verbally likes to chat. But those are your centerpieces for that defensive line. And what you get out of Michael Bennett, you talked about Roy Miller. Who else can step up? Gary Gibson and Amobi Okoye, who did not play tonight because of injury. Guys that will be needed.
And Claiborne, I just love watching him play. He led, as a rookie, led the team with 7.5 sacks. Schiano, talking to Coach Schiano today. We watch Rusty Smith.
Down the sideline and complete. He heaved it for DJ Woods, who hauled it in inside the Tampa 40.
But Greg Schiano talking about Claiborne says that we think he can be even better. As good as that rookie year, he's going to continue to gain and add to his repertoire of pass moves. And when you mix that repertoire of moves with the sheer power that he demonstrates, you're going to have a heck of a pass rusher in Adrian Claiborne.
And Greg Schiano frustrated by that 33-yard pass play from Rusty Smith. And Herb Donaldson running straight ahead. Let's check it down on the field. Dave Worth has more on Gerald McCoy. Dave?
Yeah, Gerald McCoy, of course, trying to come back from 2 consecutive biceps injuries the last 2 years. And they need him back healthy. Desperately, they need him healthy. He plays that important under-tackle position. And so much was expected, the 3rd overall pick in the draft. He is healthy now. He doesn't look back. His injuries just happen. But it's a different day here with the Buccaneers, with the new regime and the new coaching staff. So not only is he trying to recover from his injury, but Gerald's also trying to adjust to change.
Thanks, Dave. Jacob Cotrera eventually outside, making the stop after Marquise Wheaton could not slow down Herb Donaldson. Let's listen to Gerald McCoy's thoughts on the new regime.
What I will say is change is always tough. Change is not easy. And that's what been the biggest thing here is change. A lot of things have changed that we're not used to.
Part of that is the culture change that Greg Schiano brought, and after you don't win, that happens. And I asked him, the coach, about resistance. Do you get some of that from players or some assistant coaches? As Harper carries, he said, well, not from the coaching staff because I hired the guys, but from some players, and he understands that. He said he is a good listener, though. But ultimately, obviously, as the head coach, he has to make the call.
And we've already seen some instances where guys weren't buying in, weren't adapting to that change, and they're not here any longer. And so I think a pretty good message. You better buy in. And I think Gerald McCoy said it well. It's not always easy, but believe me, when you have change, all these players are looking is, can Greg Schiano lead us where we want to go? And if he can, if they feel like he can, if he earns their respect, they'll buy in. And tonight's not a good showing, but I think long-term, Greg Schiano is the right man for this job.
On 2nd down, met hard right at the 15-yard line is Donaldson. Najee Good and Jacob Cotrera, the linebackers, on the stop. So it'll bring up a 3rd down.
What you got to understand right now, a lot of people are watching this game. The game's likely decided at 23-7, but each one of these players is being evaluated every snap. They will go back with a fine-tooth comb and analyze every one of these plays, and that's how they evaluate who's going to make the 53 best players for this Buccaneer football team, for this Titans football team.
This is Rusty Smith for the end zone. Touchdown, Titans. Cameron Graham, the tight end, on the receiving end, and it's 29-7, Tennessee.
Well, play action becomes so effective when you've run the football well. The Titans have run the football extremely well today. That gets linebackers cheating up. It gets safety getting a little nosy, and things like that happen. You open yourself up to the play action pass when you allow the run, and that's was a problem for the Bucs last year. It's a problem for them tonight. There's the hard play action. Cody Grimm comes up, and right behind him the secondary, little breakdown in coverage, but a lot of it has to do with the play action and players getting nosy, trying to help out, not doing their job.
Will Batson on for the extra point. Rusty Smith from Florida Atlantic engineering a touchdown for Tennessee. They once trailed 7-0, but here in the fourth quarter, the Titans lead the Bucs 30-7. And after an early touchdown pass from Josh Freeman to Mike Williams, as we look at the Ram truck scoring drive, the Titans have dominated. It's now 30-7, and the Titans kicking off to Tampa Bay.
And Chris, one thing that I think has become quite evident just 2 weeks into the preseason, the back half of this roster, this is not a really deep football team, the Tampa Bay. They're still trying to get to Mike Munchak in his second year. They're 1 year ahead in the process. Much deeper football team. We saw that versus Miami. The starters played well last week, and then there wasn't much in the second half. So I think that it's pretty clear to see what needs to happen. The back half of this roster, and the teams, not only the starters are good, but you need depth in this league. You need quality depth, and that's not there right now in Tampa.
Michael Smith on the run. He's had a good night getting the ball out beyond the 20 and just short of the 25-yard line, as Brett Ratliff will lead the offense. He's been in the NFL one way or another for 5 years, but no passes in an NFL regular season game. NFI list, the non-football injury list.
And Donald Pinn's been a really good player for the Buccaneers, but a guy whose weight has fluctuated. And this is part of the no-nonsense approach of Greg Schiano. He said, "You're not going to play that game with me." I think Donald Penn, from everything I hear, has been healthy for the last week or so, but he was going to lose that weight and get where he's supposed to be before he was going to be allowed to get on the field. It sounds like he's gotten there now. He passed the conditioning test this morning. Maybe we see him versus the Patriots next week.
Ratliff's pass complete to Zach Pianalto. Yeah, they were saying up around the estimates, 40 pounds lost maybe. So just this morning, the conditioning test, and healthy enough, but has to meet a certain weight under this program to get that starting job back. And they think that he'll play against New England next week and be practicing next week. And what a time to get in there. I don't know if that 305 is
I promise you, he hasn't seen 305 since I've known him as part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They list him. He's a big boy, but he's a good athlete and a good football player that has had a problem with his weight. He's not going to have that problem because they won't allow him to play if he's not in shape.
Michael Smith carries, and a Pro Bowl player, and Greg Schiano spoke glowingly of his ability, but yes, you have to be in shape to play for Greg Schiano.
And that's part of the getting the best out of people. He's a good player, sometimes even a real good player. When you've got the ability to be possibly great, let's try to get that out of him and try to get more, and nothing like competition. And maybe DeMar Dotson showing himself really well last week to get the most out of a guy like Donald Penn.
Aurelius Ben, who has not played because of that right knee injury, the Bucs expect him to play against Washington in the last preseason game if all goes well. Of course, next Friday, home against the Patriots, Tom Brady will be in town. When the starters traditionally play longer into the game, as Michael Smith gets a couple of tough carries. Smith, who shared time at Utah State with Robert Turbin, who is now in Seattle. He was more of the star running back. He does get the first down.
A little meeting of the minds. Rondé Barber, the old vet.
What's Rondé telling you about what's going on here? This is final year of the National Football League in all likelihood.
You know, a lot of what Rondé and I have talked about is he doesn't feel like a 16-year vet because he's got a new challenge of his own, moving to a new position, and he's enjoying that challenge.
There goes Michael Smith into Tennessee territory.
And remember, we've talked about it. He's a guy competing for a job. We've seen him as a returner. Now we see him as a runner. And when you have that speed, you've got a chance because you've got the opportunity on each and every play to go the distance. Michael Smith shows some good patience and then just a burst. And again, you can't teach speed. You can improve it a little bit, but that's God-given right there, and Michael Smith's been blessed with that.
You marvel at a guy 5'9", just like Doug Martin, how chiseled they are, how well put together that they can take the hits and the pounding. And here goes Smith again.
And I would tell you and will tell you, as a player, as a defensive back, those were the guys that gave me the most problem. The smaller guys that were 5'9", 5'10", first of all, you lose them behind those behemoth linemen. You can't see them. And then, boom, they're shot out of a cannon. Give me a big guy anytime, because I didn't have a hard time with those guys. But the smaller guys were the guys that gave me problems, and I think a lot of NFL defensive players would tell you that.
I remember seeing video of Barry Sanders.
Oh,
of
please
course,
don't say that.
A lot of people had problems with Barry Sanders, whether you saw him or not.
Yeah.
It was getting your hands on him. Well, that's also, Rondé Barber, you talk about all his years. He's only, 5'10", 185 pounds, and he's done a lot of the tackling over the years and has survived 199 consecutive starts as Smith carries again.
Not only survived, but thrived. Possible Hall of Fame career by Rondé Barber. We talk about all the starts. I think more of the quality of starts. This guy has done nothing but make plays throughout his career. New challenge at the safety position, but just knowing him, he'll adapt and respond well. Still loves the game. Will this be his last year? We'll see. I think only Rondé can answer that, and I don't think he wants to answer it now. He wants to let this year play out. But one heck of a career, and what a contribution to this team, to this organization, to this community Rondé and his wife Claudia have been.
On 3rd down and 5 for Brett Ratliff. This is Michael Smith. He's carried the load, and it'll be 4th down. Josh Freeman started and had the short touchdown toss, but was on the move a lot. Dan Orlovsky suffered a sack and a fumble, an interception. And then Brett Ratliff comes into the game as we near the 2-minute mark, and the Bucs likely to go for it.
And I think you can get so caught up in the ups and downs. I think we got to let things play out. You look at this offense. I believe this offense has a lot of talent, and I believe it's going to come to fruition. They got all the pieces, but they got to make it happen. Next week's going to be a great test against the New England Patriots.
Positive that LeGarrette Blount is still in uniform and on the sidelines after the injury in the first half. So we've reached the 2-minute warning here in Game 2 of the preseason. The Titans lead the Bucs 30-7. Join 10 News and the Buccaneers Television Network next Friday night, 7:30. The Bucs host the New England Patriots, defending AFC champs, who actually opened the regular season against these Tennessee Titans. 10 News pregames at 7. Kickoff at 7:30. Patriots and your Bucs right here on 10 News. So they've decided not to go for it. 2 minutes to go. The Bucs on 4th down to punt. Eric Guthrie will be back. DJ Woods set to return, standing at the Tennessee 10-yard line. Fair catch called for. And at the 14, the Titans will take over. Each team has used 3 quarterbacks. Jake Locker got the start, followed by Matt Hasselbeck. And then Rusty Smith, who threw a touchdown pass to make it 30-7. Josh Freeman, followed by Dan Orlovsky and Brett Ratliff. And now Nick Stevens is coming in to wrap up for the Titans. John, you here in Tampa went over and spoke to some high school football players at Plant High School.
And boy, they didn't need to hear from me. This is a team that has won 4 of the last 6 state championships here in Florida, where they play a good brand of football. It was an impressive group of young men that I had the opportunity to speak to today. Really enjoyed that. Robert Weiner, their coach. And they do a great job on the field as well as off the field in the classroom as well.
And if you're watching, we appreciate it. Games like this for Buccaneer fans are tough preseason, but you get excited in the win over Miami, and then maybe a little bit of reality here with Tennessee. They had a tough game against Seattle in their opener. They had something they wanted to prove. So we'll find out more next Friday against New England. As you said, the Bucs will be scrimmaging against the Patriots for a couple of games here in Tampa. But what's your read on where this Tampa Bay football team is?
Well, I think there's a lot of questions to be answered. I think offensively, I believe they've got the makings of a strong offense, but they got to show it. And next week, I think, is the real true test in the preseason. They'll be game planning for the Patriots. That's dress rehearsal for the regular season. First 2 games, as Greg Schiano says, we're worried about the Bucs. We're focusing on the Bucs, and they need to be worried about the Bucs the way they played tonight. But I think we'll have a better answer after next week for sure.
And, there's Mike Munchak, as you said, ahead of the game from where he was last year as a rookie head coach, and this is second year. And Greg Schiano, who calls Bill Belichick one of his influences, a guy who showed him a little bit about how to look at things differently. Don't always look at things the same way. Solving problems, coaching a team, reviewing film.
Greg Schiano has to know that Bill Belichick is cutthroat. He's not going to be his friend next week.
Preseason or not.
Yeah.
Maybe all those tips, those pointers when Bill Belichick had a child attending Rutgers, where Greg Schiano was the coach. So his record falls to 1-1 in the preseason, as do the Bucs. And get ready for next Friday, the home game against New England, and then wrapping up the preseason on the road against the Washington Redskins. On the Ram Truck scoreboard, the final preseason game number 2, the Titans with 30 after they trailed 7-0. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing this one 30-7. We'll have more from Raymond James Stadium in just a moment.